Welcome to Odds.com's NFL Opening Line Show, Tuesday, November 17th. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We have a special guest. The Whale Capper will be coming on the show to break down the final three games on the card. And we are coming off another extremely difficult week. Make the bad man stop, Bebsy. What the hell is going on, man? 2 weeks ago, we were sitting 19 games over 500. You were up 10 units on the season. And things have fallen apart. How are you holding up right now?
Jimmy, I'm rattled. It's a midseason meltdown. I don't know which way is up. I don't know which way is down. I know that my record is going down. I know that I'm rattled, Jimmy. I'm fucking rattled, but we're going to get back on track. This is what we do. When we fall off the horse, we get back on.
It ebbs and flows. The season ebbs and flows. This just happens to be a giant ebb, taking money out of my family's mouth. Shout out to all the cappers in the chat. We got Gerald Jones ready to get to work. JM ready to eat. Dennis Garcia in the chat once again saying, can the New York Giants win the division? He has them at 25-1. They certainly look capable of winning the division in that NFC East. That's so horrible. Slats45 says, love the chat, which got me on the Dolphins. That was one of my few victories. We'll review everything. As always, while we can't promise you winners, we can always promise you honesty and transparency. So we will do a review. And the Dolphins was an easy win. Wondering if I should go back to the well. I bet nothing so far this week on the NFL card. Robert Allen in the house talking about this Giant spot. Not even a show. Ready to get to work. We got Jai T says JG Dubs ready to go. Nuke Worker ready to cap. Steel Curtain. Christian Larson. Cash Action Bet. Sweaty Butcher. Ron Walsek. Prince of the City. I love Prince of the City in Vegas. I know how much money he made fading his Eagles this past week. I was thinking about you with a big smile on my face. All right, it is time to get to work. There's Mr. Fun Monk ready to go. Let's do exactly that and get to work. First off, Sweaty Butcher says, I can't stick around, but let me leave this here for you guys. Since 2002, when the Chiefs are seeking revenge against the Raiders, the over-under is 110-1 towards the under. And we know what Andy Reid does off of buys. Games go under, and his team wins. But we don't have to get to that game right away. In fact, the Whale Capper will be joining us when we drop that. Kevin Riley, ready to get to work. Dill Pickles in the house. All right, it's time for a review. And 2 weeks ago, I came onto the show plus units, confident. And it's been a bloodbath. If it wasn't for NCAA football last week, I don't know how I'd be walking around talking to people. I'm now 55-63, hitting 46.6%, down 16.04 units. ROI, negative double digit, 13.59%, average line minus 111. Last week, I went 5 wins, 10 losses. I lost 6 units. And it almost, I'll talk to you when it almost fell apart for me. But Browns minus 3 was a push. Jaguars team total under 18.5 was a loss. Joe Yurkovich was in my head when he was talking about how I was bullish on the Buccaneers, and he was saying, why take them early? Let the full game. And I was like, I thought my biggest edge was them early. I lose Buccaneers first quarter minus a half. I lose Buccaneers first half minus 3. I cash Buccaneers team total over 27.5. I lose Broncos plus 5.5. I lose Cardinals minus 2.5. Cash Chargers Dolphins over 48. Cash Dolphins minus 2.5. Lose the double dip on the Ravens. I was so nervous. I got to start buying out of spots. I was so nervous when it was minus 6.5 pregame. I was like, oh, I'm in trouble. Washington, Detroit Lions, first half under 23. That was my best bet on the morning show of lines that were still available. That cashed. Tua Tagovailoa over 22.5 rush yards. He ran 6 times for minus 1 yard. That was a loss. Bears plus 3.5 minus 115 was a loss. Bears money line plus 160 was a loss. And I hit the null over 12.5 receiving yards on the second last play of the game. For his only reception, he ran or caught for 18 yards. It was a bullshit win but it was enough to help me wake up in the morning. Bebsy, that was my week. You went 2-6, down 4.7 units, 36-34 on the season, hitting at 51.4%. You're down 2.95 units. Your ROI is minus 4.21%. Average line minus 112. You pushed on the Browns, lost on the Broncos, Raiders over 51.5. Cash, Chargers, Dolphins over 47.5 with me. Lost on the Bengals plus 7.5. Lost the Ravens first half and full game with me. Lost the Bears plus 3. Lost the Luton over 7.5 rush yards, but cashed the Kyler Murray over 55.5 rush yards. Give me a review of how you felt with that workload you had last week.
Well, I mean, we all saw Chubb run out of bounds at the one, which crushed me. But at the same time, I was like, I get it. That's smart football. The thing that's rattled my cage, and this is 2 weeks in a row, but I was high on Indy, but I didn't want to bet Thursday nights because of my boycott. Indy hit. I was high on Buffalo, but I let myself get talked out of it right here in the chat. And Buffalo covered. And then the same thing is I was all over the Rams. Everything told me the Rams were going to win. And you know, I'm a coward, so I didn't go with it. The Rams hit. That would have been a much different looking week for me.
Sure.
And I even, you know, I kept saying when we were talking about the Ravens and the Pats, I kept saying that the thing that worries me the most is this makes no sense. Why it hasn't moved, why it's so low, and then I felt bad about it, and then sure enough, struck out again on that double up.
Yeah, it was rough. The Rams, I was just so nervous with all these, you know, guys I respected on the Seahawks and ended up staying off the Rams. The Cardinals, I understand why they didn't kick the convert, but like a buffoon, when they got the touchdown, I thought I was then going to cover with the converted point after. But there was a smart play. If something goes wrong, they run it back. It's a tie game. So it was an extremely irritating week. I'm down 16 plus units in the last 2 weeks, and it's rough. But when Nall caught that pass, that meaningless pass, and ran 18 yards, gave me a little hope, Bebsy. And there's nothing scarier than a man with hope, Bebsy. And that's what I've got right now. Let's get after it. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Sorry about the sadness that seeps in a little bit after the last 2 weeks that I've had. Let's go to work right now. We start with the Thursday nighter. And those of you jumping on, we will have the whale capper joining us for the last 3 games on the card. We start with the Thursday nighter, Bebsy. Arizona Cardinals on the road at the Seattle Seahawks, a little NFC West battle. This total opened up very high, 58.5. It's gone down a point to 57.5. Seattle opens up at -3 juiced. It is still juiced, at least -118. You're not going to find less than -118. And the leading indicator books have moved it to 3.5 in Seattle on Thursday evening, 45 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 12 miles per hour. Cardinals 6-3. 3-1 on the road at the Seahawks, 6-3, 4-0 at home. Cardinals coming off an incredible 32-30 win on the last-second Hail Mary to defeat the Bills at home. Kyler Murray was 22 of 32, 245 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He also ran 11 times for 61 yards. Murray has run for at least 1 touchdown in 5 consecutive games to tie franchise record. He's the first quarterback. He's the first to tie a Cardinals franchise record, but he's the first quarterback in the NFL to do that since Green Bay's Tobin Rote in 1956. DeAndre Hopkins caught the Hail Mary in unbelievable fashion. 3 defenders around him. He ended up with 7 catches for 127 yards and, of course, the game-winning TD. Kenyon Drake was back. He looked very good. 16 rushes for 100 yards. Still dealing with an ankle injury. He is expected to be limited all week in practice. He's listed as questionable. Chase Edmonds stepped up, helped. He ran 8 times for 56 yards. Tight end Darrell Daniels left in the second quarter. He's listed as questionable with an ankle injury. Defensive lineman Corey Peters was carted off the field in the second quarter with a knee injury. He's also listed as questionable, but after watching it go down and being carted off, you'd have to think it's unlikely. Linebacker Devondre Campbell left in the third quarter with a calf injury. He's listed as questionable. The reason why, and we'll get into the Seahawks after. I would like to hear you talk about the Cardinals. But the reason why I think people are pretty bullish on the Seahawks right now, and I'm not one of them, but is this secondary is so beaten up for the Cardinals. Charles Washington and Jalen Thompson are questionable, but more importantly, Budda Baker. been dealing with a groin injury. He'll be limited all week in practice. He's also listed as questionable. You have cornerback Dre Kirkpatrick dealing with a sore hamstring as well. Limited in practice all week, listed as questionable. Linebacker Hassan Reddick, tight end Max Williams, defensive end Jordan Phillips, and offensive tackle Justin Murray are also on the injury report listed as questionable. What do you think about these Cardinals coming into the Thursday nighter, Bebsy?
All right, well, you said it yourself. The secondary is extremely banged up, and the injury that I'm most focused on has to be the Budda Baker injury. If he can't play, man, that is going to be tough. However, on the other side of the ball, they can put up points against good defenses. So facing Seattle is not scary, not on a short week, not going into Seattle. Seattle doesn't have the 12 this year, so the home field advantage doesn't matter for them. This is an incredibly tough spot for Seattle just because of the way the Cards are surging right now. I mean, one of the most difficult things to do in football is to beat the same team twice in one season. And really, the Seahawks were dominating that last outing and then just fell apart second half and then slowly but surely threw that game away. So I don't know. I like the Cardinals in this spot still. This is a Cardinals team that's surging right now. They're doing better. They're playing for each other. They're pumped up. Remember when Bill O'Brien traded DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson and a second? Man, that looks like a good trade right now. So I got to be high on the Cards this week.
Yeah, and Dennis brings up a good point. Do we trust Arizona after that huge high on Saturday and already beating Seattle? And those are the most important points here. Let's talk about – say what, Benji?
Well, absolutely. I agree with Dennis. I mean, already beating Seattle is super hard. And, yeah, that is a huge emotional last-minute win. I would almost be enticed to take Seattle in the first half and Arizona full game.
Christian Larson says also their first road game in 3 weeks. Seahawks coming off their second straight loss and third in 4 games, 23-16 at the Rams. Seattle is 1-3 against winning teams. If you can shut down DK Metcalf with a good corner, what do the Seahawks do? What can they do? And we're talking about a team with options to shut down DK Metcalf, starting with Patrick Peterson. DK Metcalf was held to 2 catches for 28 yards on 4 targets. Jalen Ramsey was all over him. Russell Wilson had his worst game of the year, going 22-37 for 248 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. For the first time all year, he did not throw a single touchdown pass. He'd thrown at least 2 in every other game. He also had a fumble. Now has 10 turnovers in his past 4 games. It's the first time since Wilson's rookie season that he's throwing multiple picks in consecutive games. They could get very little out of their running game. Wilson ran 8 times for 60 yards, but Alex Collins led the backs with 11 carries for 43 yards. The defense allowed a season low in points. It also allowed the Rams to score on 4 of their first 6 drives, each 70 yards or longer. Seahawks continue to be on pace to allow the most yards in NFL history. Seattle was without their 2 top running backs, as we've been talking about often on this show. Starting center Ethan Pochik also out because of a concussion. Both starting corners did not play. Both running backs, Chris Carson and Carlos Hyde, remain questionable. I know there's people that believe Chris Carson will be back. I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if anybody in the chat has any kind of like inside information or the latest information on Chris Carson, because I know a lot of cappers do think he'll be back. Both starting cornerbacks, Quentin Dunbar and Shaquille Griffin, were out. They need them back badly against DeAndre Hopkins. Pochich remains in concussion protocol, and the reason why there are some that believe that he will be in the lineup on Thursday is because Kyle Fuller, the backup center, sustained a high ankle sprain and is also questionable. Cornerback Nico Thorpe re-injured his groin Sunday. He's questionable. Linebacker KJ Wright dealing with an ankle injury. He's expected to go. I mean, the guy's just battles. He's a monster. Backup running back Travis Homer dealing with both a knee and thumb injury. He's questionable. Tight end Greg Olsen dealing with a foot injury. He's questionable. And then Tyler Lockett is a knee sprain. I know a lot of cappers are talking about it here in the chat, saying that Tyler Lockett will play. Defensive end Benson Mayowa remains questionable. These are 2 beat-up teams meeting on a Thursday. And I guess in that situation – okay, well, let's first off, if Chris Carson's not in the lineup and Budda Baker is good to go, we'll get some more information on Charles Washington and Jalen Thompson. But to me, I'd take the points here, especially if I can get 3.5. Now that bit me in the Bears game, waiting all week to get to 3.5. Robert Allen says Chris Carson will play. So let's talk about the Seahawks. What did you think of Metcalf being completely shut down? And do you expect Carson to be back in the lineup? And if so, does that make them the play?
Well, I mean, I said this Tuesday of last week. If there's a corner in this league that's built to shut down Metcalf, it's Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey is a big, strong, fast corner. Now, Patrick Peterson was a big, strong, fast corner. He's lost a step. He's not the guy he was a few years ago. He's still incredibly talented, and most teams would want him on the team, but he's not where Jalen Ramsey is right now. I think he'll do a better job against DK Metcalf than a lot of corners have this year, which isn't saying much because a lot of corners have just been absolutely torched by him. But I do think he can slow him down a little bit. But I'm pretty sure Lockett's going to play. If Carson plays, that's huge because we have seen just how much Russell Wilson is struggling without a run game. So a lot of this comes down to injuries. Like who is coming on the field for what team? If Baker is playing, that's huge. If Carson is playing, that's huge. My assumption in this game is that the Seahawks come out firing and then fall apart in the second half. Again, it's their defense is so suspect. They have been all year. It just seems like everyone's catching up and realizing it now. But, I mean, also everything suggests that this should go over because of the fact that, both of these teams can put up a ton of points and Seattle's defense is atrocious. However, Thursday night, ton of injuries. I wouldn't be so confident taking the over in this one.
It's a tough Thursday spot. Are you going to continue your rich tradition of staying off Thursdays?
I hate Thursday night football with a passion. So for that reason, I can't get on it. However, if I was to make a play, I think I would take Seattle first half and Arizona full game.
I don't want to back Arizona after that unbelievable comeback against the Bills. But I don't want nothing to do with the Seahawks. Especially
well, I mean, how can you? This is also a team that they gave up 2 first-round picks for a very talented 2 firsts and a second or 2 firsts and a third, I can't remember, for a valuable pass rushing safety. But you saw Adams is getting torched last week. He's not great in coverage. He's definitely not worth the ransom that they paid for him. But this is I don't know how that defense stops Arizona's offense.
Yeah. And then, I mean, it's a ridiculously high total. I can understand why it's dropped, but
it's a lot of points for a Thursday night game too. Teams, when they're beat up, they just come out sluggish, it seems.
Well, I have to be honest. When this gets when this hits 3.5, I'm going to have interest in Arizona. I just think that this game is going to be tight. So, the leading indicator books have moved it to 3.5, albeit at a plus line. So I don't want 3.5 at -125 or -130. I want it at -110. So I will wait and see. Here we go. That is the Thursday nighter. Again, no move from Bebsy. And I just don't want to let what I saw mess me up here on this conference battle, what I saw on Sunday. And it is. So if I get 3.5, I think I'll move towards the Cardinals. Let's move on to our next game. We're going to start Sunday. We're going to go down the rotation numbers, and then the whale capper will be joining us for the last 3 games. We're going to start with Eagles, Browns, 3-5 and 1 Eagles, 1-3 on the road at the Cleveland Browns, 6-3, 4-1 at home. The Browns open up juiced -3, very similar to the game we just spoke of, the Seahawks game, except that a bunch of books have already moved it to 3.5. This total opened up at 45.5. It is now at 46. 58 Fahrenheit. We have nice weather again on Sunday. We've had a lot of nice weather here in North America. So 58 Fahrenheit, showers, 15 miles per hour, wind. We dealt with a lot of weather the last 2 games the Browns have been in at home, but we're not going to deal with it too much here, although the winds are 15 miles per hour. We'll see if that changes closer to game time. Eagles looked awful in their bye week. Off their bye week. Awful. 27-17 loss at the Giants. They got Miles Sanders back, Alshon Jeffrey back, and it didn't help their offense. Miles Sanders looked good, ran 15 times for 85 yards. Alshon Jeffrey was non-existent. 0 catches while only being targeted once. Carson Wentz ended up 21-37, 208 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. They were 0 for 9 on third downs. They're a healthy squad. Left guard Nate Herbig was a late scratch because of a finger injury. Safety Rudy Ford is dealing with a hamstring injury. They're a healthy squad. Browns coming in off a 10-7 win at home versus the Texans. Chubb returned from injury, finished with 126 yards on 19 carries. Kareem Hunt ran for 104 yards on 19 carries. Cleveland held the ball for the final 4 minutes and 54 seconds against the NFL's worst rushing defense. Chubb and Hunt are the first Browns teammates to run for 100 yards each in the same game since Hall of Famer Leroy Kelly and Ernie Green did it in 1966. The weather made throwing very difficult. Baker Mayfield went 12 of 20 for 132 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Rashard Higgins led the receivers with 3 catches for 48 yards. Myles Garrett recorded his 10th sack. Browns are a healthy group. Offensive lineman Chris Hubbard remains on the COVID list, and linebacker Jacob Phillips remains questionable. Bebsy, Eagles, Browns, take it away.
I mean, it's hard not to back Cleveland here. They're just a better football team. And look, again, everything has to go through the run game. You had 200-yard rushers since, what do you say, 1963?
66, yeah.
I mean, look, I just love I love the Browns to just run hard on the Eagles. And if they do that, if they can control the clock and run this game and make Carson Wentz throw the ball in bad weather, I just don't see how the Eagles can do it. I don't know how they match that running game. I don't know how they stack up. You can tire out that defensive line, which is really the only strength of the Eagles right now. And look, Wentz has had 2 games this year where I thought he looked great, and he's had every other game where I think he's looked terrible. So I don't know. What does Prince in the City think of the Eagles this week?
Well, I know what he wants to do. He wants to fade them. I don't need to ask. Christian Larson saying Doug Peterson sounded emotionally drained in a recent radio interview. The Browns believe in themselves.
They do, and to be honest with you, it all starts with that running game, and they're getting that identity. They're playing solid defense, and the running game is paying off. Like, look, they should have cashed last week. They didn't. I feel like this week they do. But
the Texans are not a good football team. They lose by 10 to the. They lose by
Philadelphia is.
No, but I just mean like they lose by 10 to the Raiders. Yes, they could have easily extended that lead, but I don't know. I'm just gun shy right now after 2 bad weeks. Rob T says this is where you bet the Eagles. Says the Eagles always turn up when they have been written off. Mr. Funmonk says if high wins in Cleveland, bet the under. Not only will there be high winds, but there's going to be rain, which doesn't always lead to defense, as we've seen. And as Dennis Garcia points out often, how it's much tougher on the secondary in rain than it is on the offense in rain. What do you think of this total? It's inching up. 46s are now on the board from the opening 45.5 at Bet365.
See, to me, this under is still very much in play, just because, again, I think it's a ground game attack for the Brownies, and the Eagles just struggle to put up points in almost every game. So regardless of the weather, I think this is an underplay.
Yeah, I think this is an underplay. I think it's almost a simple underplay. I mean, we know what nothing is. Okay, I'm going to make a move on the under here. 46. It's just hard to imagine with these two squads healthy, their defense healthy. We know what they do. They run the ball. And, yeah, Christian Larson says, agree with the under. Okay. Gerald Jones leaning under. Mr. Funmonk says if high wins leaning under or bet the under. All right. Well, that's a move that I plan on making. Under 46, Philadelphia, Cleveland, and that's available right now. Anything official for you, Bebsy? Do you want me to line shop for anything?
You know what? I don't know if I want to sit and watch that line and jump on it later in the week, or if I want to just get it now.
Well, I'll just give you the option right now, and you'll have time to think about it. I'm going to move over to the odds.com odds page. I just had it up here. Let's just also see what the action is on this game, if that's up yet. Wow, it's everything's on the under. 80% of cash, 74% of tickets, 79% of cash, 80% of tickets are on the Browns as well.
You know, I'm going to jump on that now because I think it's only going to go down.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a red flag when you see all that money on the under and it go up a half point. The best total I could give you right now, there's only 146. It's at PointsBet, minus 110. You want it?
Yes, sir.
All right, we are both on the board. This is one of those spots where, like, you've just seen the Browns in two extremely low-scoring games, and I want to go back to the well, but as Guillermo Zertucci puts it, you're late to the party and early on time for the funeral, and but it makes sense. It certainly makes sense at this point. The under 46 in that spot. All right, let's move on to the Falcons Saints. Saints open up as 5-point favorites. One book has moved that to 4.5. This total opened up at 51.5. Is now at 51. Falcons 3-6, 2-2 on the road. As the Saints 7-2, 4-1 at home. Falcons coming off their bye week. They were last seen in a 34-27 win at home over the Broncos. Now 3-1 under Raheem Morris, interim coach Raheem Morris. Matt Ryan was 25 of 35 for 284 yards, 3 TDs, 1 interception. Falcons scored on their first 4 possessions, converted 6 of 7 third downs, and that was without Calvin Ridley. So he's now had 2 weeks to rest his injured foot and was seen running in practice. Olamide Zaccheaus led the receivers with 4 catches and 103 yards. Todd Gurley ran 19 times for 53 yards. Dante Fowler missed the game, but is not on the injury report this week. He's supposed to be good to go. And Takk McKinley was waived, picked up by the Bengals, failed the test right away, so he's available to any team that wants him. So my problem with this game was that after watching what Winston did, and what Winston did was be very conservative, extremely conservative, not want to make the same mistakes he made as a Buccaneer.
Well, Peyton's going to have him on a real short leash.
Well, I think he already proved that he's going to be a different quarterback. And we know that Taysom Hill can be in there for a lot of snaps. And I'll get into the Saints, but the problem with this game was that I thought, wow, I'm going to get a really nice opportunity to back the Saints when Breeze gets hurt and back Jameis Winston in a new place after watching the offense for week after week after week on the sidelines and then coming in and not looking very strong but being very conservative in a game where all he had to do was not make any mistakes. And the problem is that I also wanted to back the Falcons off their bye week. So Prince of the Steez laughing. He says, please stop auto fade. And I'm not sure if he's talking about the Eagles because he just jumped in the chat or he's talking about these Saints. Okay, Saints coming off 27-13 victory over the Niners, overshadowed by the big hit on Drew Brees, fractured ribs, punctured lung. Brees stayed in the game after the hit, led the Saints on another scoring drive. They were up 17-10 at the half. Brees was 8 for 13 for 76 yards, 1 touchdown. Jameis Winston opened the second half, finished 6 for 10 for 63 yards. Latavius Murray led the running backs with 9 carries for 57 yards. Alvin Kamara was held to 8 carries for 15 yards, although he did lead the receivers again, catching 7 passes for 83 yards. Michael Thomas, 2 catches for 27 yards. Emmanuel Sanders, 1 catch for 5 yards. And I know that we saw nothing of what Jameis really could do to provide these guys who want numbers and want the ball with opportunities. But after watching Brees for the last couple of years throw 5-yard passes, you have to think they're excited about Jameis Winston. The Saints defense is getting stronger and stronger as the year goes on. They've allowed 1 touchdown in the past 2 games. Traquan Smith appeared to be knocked out, the receiver, on a hit by Ward while trying to make a catch over the middle of the second quarter. He left the game with concussion symptoms. He's in concussion protocol. Tight end Josh Hill also left the game with concussion. He's in protocol as well. Defensive tackle Malcolm Brown injured his calf. He's questionable to go. Marshawn Lattimore left with an oblique injury. That's a big question mark. He was on the sidelines happy in the second half. He's questionable. And then Dwayne Washington, not as important running back, remains questionable. Steel Curtain says Jameis is better than Brees is laughable. Look, I'm not saying he's better than Brees. But you could understand the receivers thinking, oh, I'm going to get some opportunities for some deep balls I haven't been getting from Brees. That's what I mean. Bebsy, take it away.
Well, I don't know if it is laughable. I don't think – listen, Drew Brees has the lowest average yards in the air this year. I think he's passing the ball on average 5.6 yards down the field. He can't throw anymore. Yes, he's more accurate than Jameis Winston. And yes, career-wise, he's infinitely better than Jameis Winston. But right now, as long as Jameis Winston is not just closing his eyes and whipping the ball into triple coverage, I don't think he's worse than Brees. That's the big problem here. I think there is value in the Falcons just because of the fact that 5 points, divisional matchup, Matt Ryan is better than Jameis Winston. I think there's value there, but I don't think Jameis being in is that much of a downgrade. You don't think Jameis Winston can throw a 5-yard out to Kamara and watch him rip apart a defense? Drew Brees isn't that big of a loss. You saw when he went down last year and Teddy Bridgewater came in, and they went 5-0 with Teddy Bridgewater. Drew Brees at this stage in his career is benefiting solely from Sean Payton's ability to scheme people open, play dink and dunk football, and let his playmakers play the ball. So if your reasoning for betting against the Saints is the Brees injury, I don't know if I'd get too excited about that.
I absolutely agree. My issue here, Bebsy, is that I want to bet the Falcons moving forward, and that's my problem. What are your expectations of these Falcons moving forward?
It's a tough spot. They've certainly played better since Dan Quinn's been let go. I've said this. I was surprised in that I didn't think he was a problem. I didn't know if he had lost the locker room. It really seems like they're playing better football without him. But again, like your season's pretty well lost. What are you playing for at this point? There's speculation that Matt Ryan might not be there next year. I just don't know. The Falcons have been incredibly difficult to predict over the last 2 seasons. So I don't know. I predict more of the status quo going forward. I figure they put up a bunch of points when you don't expect them to, and then I picture them losing games you don't expect them to as well.
You know, Dennis is with me. He says, I agree, Jimmy. The only reason not to love Nola is Atlanta's bet on as well. And that's where I'm left. This was, to me, from a betting angle, the perfect spot to back the Saints. But I want the Falcons. I want to use the Falcons moving forward, and that ties me up unless I'm going to do anything but the total. What do you think of this total sitting at opening at 51.5? The under was juiced, so it moved down to 51. Not a big deal at Bet365, but what do you think about this total, Bebsy?
I just think divisional game, injured starter out, different look. I lean under in this one. Again, not certain I'm ready to jump on that. I think it's another line I'd like to watch this week and see where the action comes in. But to me, this is a lean under, but not a ton of confidence in that.
Okay. There's no move for me on this game at this point, and it's upsetting. Let's move on to the Detroit Lions at Carolina Panthers. 4-5 Lions, 3-2 on the road at the Panthers, 3-7, 1-4 at home. 65 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 3 miles per hour in Carolina on Sunday. This game is off the board. Is it off the board everywhere? Well, we had the total at some license. The offshores have it off. On licensed books, we have a total at 49, and we have the Panthers at either 1.5 point favorites or 2.5 point favorites. So let's go with that. Let's go with that. Okay. Prince of the City, man, I love Prince of the City. I was thinking about him watching the Giants beat up on the Eagles. I was like, man, Prince of the City leaves Vegas rich. All right. Lions won their first home game in over a year on Prater's 59-yard field goal as time expired to get the Lions past Washington 30-27. Prater set an NFL record by making multiple 50-yard field goals in the game for the 7th time. And it was funny because I mentioned him before the game on our shows last week because he was 6 for 12 on field goals from 40+. And he stepped up. He stepped up in a big way.
Got me 16 fantasy points. No big deal.
Oh, yeah, no, I feel you. It was impressive. Lions were up 24-3 midway through the third, and I did catch on that first half under. And maybe it was a little fortunate there with what Washington did in the Lions side of the field of 4 drives in Lions territory and picked up 3 points. So Stafford finished 24-33, 276 yards, threw 3 touchdown passes, and without a turnover for the first time this season. DeAndre Swift stepped up. Finally, we got to see him step up. First career start, 16 rushes for 81 yards, caught 5 passes for 68 yards. Marvin Jones led the receivers with 8 catches for 96 yards. Kenny Golladay missed his second straight game. He's played just 5 games this year. Different injuries. He's questionable to go this week. And Danny Amendola has a hip injury. He's listed as questionable. I don't know if anybody has more information on him. Hala Pulavati Vaitai, offensive tackle. He's questionable. Linebacker Jared Davis, defensive tackle Nick Williams, running back Jamal Agnew are questionable to go this week. Panthers coming off their 5th straight loss, 46-23 at home to the Buccaneers. I'm just so angry at myself for somehow going 1-2 in that game. I mean, it's just I was all over the Buccaneers, and I go 1-2 in a 46-23 win. Matt Rule said he was unbelievably disappointed in his team's second-half performance. He said the loss was completely unacceptable from every member of that locker room, player or coach. Bridgewater suffered a knee injury late in the fourth quarter of Sunday's game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He had an MRI later that night. No damage to his ACL was revealed. Matt Rule expects him to practice tomorrow. Bridgewater started the game by completing his first 13 passes, including 2 for touchdowns. Carolina finished just 1 for 9 on third downs. Ugly stuff.
Slap 25 saying he just read NFL reports. Stafford has a partial tear in his thumb and his throwing hand. You gotta figure that's a shutter down for Matt.
It's not as far as what I've read. That he's got a thumb injury and he's going to be good to go. But it's important to note. It's very, very important to note. But what I've read that he's going to be able to, or he's going to at least try to play through this at this point. And Slats, could you get if you got that report? I've read that because he's questionable. He's questionable to play, but I took it as he's going to still be good to go. So, but it's a very, very important point. And I expect Bridgewater to play in this game. He went for 18-24 for just 136 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. And it was a very interesting game for the Panthers. DJ Moore led the receivers with 4 catches for 96 yards. Robbie Anderson and Curtis Samuel combined for 29 yards receiving. The Buccaneers destroyed them in the second half. We can get that more in the Buccaneers breakdown. But Panthers entered the game last in the NFL in third down defense. I mean, they allowed points on 9 straight possessions. McCaffrey's not going to be back in the lineup. Unlikely is the word. Mike Davis, 7 carries for 32 yards. Cornerback Dante Jackson left early in the third quarter, re-injuring his toe. Russell Okung remains out of the lineup. He's questionable. John Miller, another guard, injured his knee Sunday. Take it away, Bevsy.
I mean, I don't know how you do a decent analysis in this. There's so many question marks here as to who's playing. Is Bridgewater playing? Is Stafford playing? Is McCaffrey playing? Is Golladay playing? So many of these factors. And this is exactly why it's not up yet. So I don't know how to give a proper breakdown without it. If they're both healthy, it's almost a pick 'em in my mind. I see these two teams as having a ton of the same parallels, a lot of the same problems, a lot of the same strengths, but I just don't know. I don't know how you can properly break this game down not knowing who is playing.
I agree. We can move on, but I think that this game should be capped with both quarterbacks playing and no McCaffrey and no Golladay.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, if they're both playing, I guess it depends on which injury is more debilitating to which quarterback. I'm sure that Bridgewater will be playing with a brace on. He won't be terribly mobile, but it's not like there's a tremendous pass rush from the Detroit Lions that's going to be problematic. I still think there's more playmakers on Carolina than there is on the Lions, but the Lions end up being sneaky good sometimes, and DeAndre Swift had a breakout game. I wouldn't expect him to do that 2 weeks in a row, but it's nice to finally see him. I don't know if they're going to lean on him a little more down the stretch. I feel like it would be smart on behalf of the Lions if they plan to move forward with Stafford to rest him here. Like, I don't know if I agree with a lot of the decisions Matt Patricia has made. I don't know if he's going to be there next year. And again, Matt Rule he's got that team believing in what he's doing at least. So I lean Carolina, but again, I need to know who's playing, and I need to know just how healthy these guys are.
Yeah, more information needs to be figured out. Robert Allen says Chase Daniels is a really good backup. I don't know. I think both quarterbacks are going to play. I think Stafford's going to play. I think Bridgewater's going to play, and I think McCaffrey's going to be out, and I think Galladay's going to be out. But that I don't really have any idea on. And if that's the case, okay, let me ask you this. We'll move on after this, Pepsi. The Lions were up 24-3 in the third quarter and couldn't seal the deal. Do you trust them at all from a betting standpoint moving forward?
No, of course not. That's been problematic for them all year. And again, a lot of the time that comes down to coaching. So if you can't protect a lead like that, and that's becoming a trend, then you start looking around. Look what happened in Atlanta. That was happening there. They get rid of their coach. It starts happening less. If you don't have faith in your coach, which it really seems like the Lions don't anymore and probably never should have, then yeah, I see them struggling going forward.
All right, we'll move past Carolina, Detroit. Let's start on the Patriots, Texans. This is going to be a fun breakdown. New England opens up as a 1-point dog, quickly become 2-point favorites. This total opened up at 47, now at 48. Patriots 4-5, 1-3 on the road. Texans 2-7, 1-3 at home. Patriots coming off their second straight win, 23-17 over the Ravens on Sunday night. They battled rain and wind. The Patriots offensive line completely dominated that game. It was a bit of an eye-opener. I mean, I knew this offensive line was good, but this offensive line is great. I mean, wow. Damian Harris, they make him look like Walter Payton. He runs for 121 yards on 22 carries. Cam Newton goes 13-17 for 118 yards, 1 touchdown. But you could tell that the guys like him. The team likes him, wants to fight for him. He's out there fighting. This team could have given up. and they're out there battling. It was his first TD pass since week 3, span of 4 games. Jacoby Myers caught 5 passes for 59 yards, threw a 24-yard strike to Rex Burkhead. J.C. Jackson, 6th interception of the season. He's an interception in 5 straight games, franchise record. Stephon Gilmore he missed last week. He's questionable this week. Linebacker Juwan Bentley, questionable as well. Texans coming off that 10-7 loss at Cleveland that we spoke about earlier in tough weather conditions. Finished with season lows of 153 yards passing, 243 total yards. In a game where they needed to move the ball on the ground. The 31st ranked running game could not do that. They ran for 90 yards. David Johnson out with a concussion. Duke Johnson ran 14 times for 54 yards. Deshaun Watson ran 8 times for 36 yards. He was 20 of 30 through the air for 163 yards, 1 touchdown. He's been good this year. 8th in the NFL with 2,539 yards, throwing 9 touchdowns without an interception his past 4 games. Randall Cobb was the leading receiver with 3 catches for 41 yards. But late in the game, when they desperately needed a stop, the NFL's worst run defense could do nothing. Browns kept the ball for the final 4 minutes, 54 seconds. Linebacker Jacob Martin, who's tested positive for COVID 2 weeks ago, is cleared to return. He's going to be available Sunday. And then Calamete, their guard, Senio Calamete, defensive end Charles Omenehu, and quarterback Josh McCown remain questionable to play this week. Bebsy, I understand why this move has gone to the Patriots, but I don't want to make a quick decision just because of this recency bias of them playing well. Take it away.
Well, that's just it. I mean, that's my question. Are we just taking into account how the Ravens played against New England? Because the week before, New England barely beat the Jets. Barely beat the Jets. It took some boneheaded 12 men on the field calls to give that game back to New England. They've been terrible. They came out looking pretty decent. Cam Newton still can't really throw the ball. I just don't know why we're getting so excited. Yes, they won 1 game, but I wonder if that had more to do with the Ravens being ill-prepared than – I mean, is the assumption here that Belichick's figuring it out? Belichick's, got a handle on what he has now, and going forward they're going to be better? I mean, Robert Allen just pointed out that the weather in that game was atrocious, which favored the Pats big time. So these are 2 bad football teams, but I don't know if New England should be getting the praise they're getting here.
I understand. I think that, simply put, the Patriots' offensive line is outstanding. They're able to make Damian Harris look spectacular. They have other options other than Damian Harris. And we have the Texans with the worst run defense in the NFL. Is that too simple of a way to look at it, that the Patriots are going to run the ball down the Texans' throat and that not only will New England win, but this game will go under?
Well, I expect – it's a Bill Belichick game, so you kind of expect it to go under, especially when he doesn't really have much of an offense. So if he's on his game, which he often is, I do expect him to be able to slow this game down to a snail's pace. And it's not like Houston has a high-powered offense. They traded away a very good receiver in the offseason. I don't know if you heard, but this it does scream under. I think that's a better look here than betting this spread. But I don't know. Is it sitting at 48?
Yeah, it's sitting at 48. And then the only thing that needs to be worried about is do you trust the Patriots secondary without Stephon Gilmore?
Well, Stephon Gilmore hasn't, as great a player as he is, he hasn't been on his game much this year. And I think a lot of that has to do with the whole team around him. He's, you get left out in coverage for too long because you don't have a pass rush and then you get exposed. So I don't know if you can fully blame him, but he hasn't been the difference maker this year that he has been in recent years. And, they obviously did fine without him last week. But again, that rain, that weather was such an absolute mess for that game. So I don't know. I don't know how much stock you can put into that.
I wish. Okay, so before I make decisions here, what the hell happened in that game against the Jets? Are the Patriots just what? Let me just leave it at that. What happened in that game against the Jets?
I don't know. I feel like, that was a situation. It almost looked like Belichick was like, you guys want Trevor Lawrence, you guys are going to have to work for it. You're going to have to work for this tank. And they did. They answered Belichick's awful tank attempt with some 12 men on the field calls. This is – I don't know. I mean, crazy things happen in divisional games. Maybe we can chalk it up to that. Maybe New England themselves was just like, it's the Jets. Maybe they took them lightly. I can't honestly give you an answer with that. I do think there's a ton of recency bias in this game because of them beating the Ravens this week. So for that reason, I don't know if I'm ready to bet it, but I lean Texans in this game, and the under to me is the most appealing look right now.
Yeah, I would like to have the Patriots at a plus price. I don't want to sit here with a road favorite Patriots team just because I watched them in terrible weather because we'll get into the Ravens. We'll get into the Ravens and how that broke down. Let's wait on that. But yeah, I think the under makes sense. Okay. And I have some interest in the Patriots, but the under 48 makes sense. We know what Dennis Garcia says. Yeah, give me the under 2. New England's still going to run the ball. It's not like Houston has great receivers. And Kevin Riley saying stay away spot. We got Guillermo Zertucci in the house. Lily Gunn joining us as well. Robert Cherry rolling with us. Okay, let's keep rolling. So are you going to make that official, Bebsy? You want time on that?
Yeah, I still want to think about that. I might revisit that again on Sunday.
I'm going to move on that one. Okay, we're going to move on to the next spot. Steelers, Jaguars. 76 Fahrenheit, 12 miles per hour in Jacksonville. Steelers 9-0. Never said that before in the history of that franchise. Jaguars 1-8, 1-3 at home. I thought that Jaguars team total under was a gift last Tuesday. Gave it out 19.5 on the show. Bet it a couple hours later at 18.5. On Sunday, it was down to 16.5. And, Keelan Cole didn't return that punt 91 yards. I probably would have cashed it. But, man, did the Packers look bad. And we'll get into that. The Steelers seem to only care when it's important to them, meaning divisional rivals. They certainly didn't care about beating the Cowboys. And now they go into Jacksonville in an empty stadium. It would have been an empty stadium if there wasn't COVID. Steelers coming off 36-10 beat down of the Bengals at home on Sunday. Their 11th straight win over the Bengals. We are dealing with Pittsburgh as 10-point favorites. This total opened up at 46, is now at 47 or 47.5. Big Ben, 27 of 46, season high, 333 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, despite being forced away due to COVID protocols. It was pretty interesting, but the way Stafford handled being away from his team for the week and coming in, and how Big Ben did. And look, I can't wear the Big Ben jersey after the 2 sexual assaults, but I liked what he did coming. I loved everything he's done this year. Everything he's done. And the jersey's still hanging up, although I haven't worn it 10 years. Deontay Johnson caught 6 passes for 116 yards, 1 touchdown. Juju, 9 passes for 77 yards. Claypool, 4 passes for 56 yards, 2 TDs. He has 7 TDs on the season. They didn't move the ball on the ground. That's 2 weeks in a row that they can't move the ball on the ground. Connor's doing nothing. TJ Watt, 2 of Pittsburgh's 4 sacks. Defensive tackle Tyson Alualu returned from a knee injury, but that didn't seem to help. I mean, the Bengals put up 139 yards on the ground without Mixon. Defensive end Isaiah Buggs, cornerback Mike Hilton, running back Anthony McFarland are all questionable. Before we get into the Jags, Bebsy, talk to me about these Steelers.
I mean, look, you said a lot of it. It's hard to take them in this situation because they've really played down to their competition, especially as of late. I know they are trying to still get healthy. There's a few guys in the trenches who are playing, but playing hurt. This is a tough spot in the sense that you got to get yourselves up. First of all, you have the pressure of being undefeated, and that starts weighing on teams. And now you're sitting there with this, this garbage football team in Jacksonville with some unpredictability on the other side of the ball. They have a good running game. That's about it right now. So yeah, I think it's a tough spot for Pittsburgh to get themselves up for this game. I expect them to win. They're the much better team. It's just they have not been firing out the gates lately. They've been doing what they need to do to win. So bad spot for the Steelers, but I can't bet on the Jags.
Yeah, that's well put. Let's talk about those Jags. Lost their 8th straight game, 24-20 Green Bay. Led 2017 early in the fourth quarter. Luton, 18 for 35, 169 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. James Robinson looked very good. Ran 23 times for 109 yards. Keelan Cole, that punt return was incredible. He caught 5 passes for 47 yards. DJ Shark, 4 passes for 56 yards. Miles Jack returned, 8 tackles, recovered a fumble. They didn't have Chenot, ankle injury, center Brandon Linder, back injury, safety Josh Jones, chest. All 3 of them weren't available. Jones went on injured reserve. The other 2 remain questionable. Running back Divine Ozigbo, linebacker Dakota Allen, defensive tackle Doug Costin remain questionable. Gardner Minshew is out, continues to be listed as out. Marone said that Minshew won't be available this week, but he may throw a little. I hear what you're saying. I don't trust the Steelers to care, and that was a mistake. Reality of life, you're right. Yeah, he wasn't convicted of anything. I'm a little uncomfortable wearing the jersey. I don't think, like what happened, over 10 years ago, that I will be yelled at on the street when I do. But look, he's I don't know what to say. Reality of life. I'm just saying. I like everything that he's done this year. I like the way he came off of not being around the team. I like everything he said in the press. He's happily married. He's raising a family. But there were a couple of issues. I'm not the judge or the jury. Okay, you can do whatever you want. I was given a gift of a Roethlisberger, a Big Ben jersey. I like the Steelers, and the person, the beautiful woman who gave me the jersey, did not know the stories behind them. It is what it is, Mark Hunkefer says now Aaron Hernandez was trash. Look, I used to write all my emails as if I was Aaron Hernandez to everybody, and it annoyed everybody. They were all emails from prison. Let's not get into that. Steelers, Jags. I think you nailed it by saying you don't want the Steelers in this spot. There's no way you can bet on the Jags. What do you think of this total at 47.5?
Again, the way that the Steelers have come out flat against bad teams, and frankly, the Jags just aren't capable of putting up points. This, again, it looks like an under spot for me. Again, I don't want to jump on it because, look, this Steelers team, they are more than capable of lighting up the scoreboard. We know that. It's just if they're going to come out firing, and lately they haven't. Again, the pressure of being undefeated at this stage in the season is hard, even when you're playing a garbage team like the Jags. I'll tell you something, though. I'm going to be looking at that Luton rush prop again because my logic was sound. The only reason I think that didn't happen is because, look, they were in that game for the whole game. He wasn't playing desperate. He was dishing. It was sound logic. I'm happy I made that bet. I would not be shy to jump on it again this week when we see if it comes out.
I feel you. Fernando Encisa says wearing a FUBU jersey is safer. And I wrote that in the comment section. I wrote that I'm comfortable wearing FUBU and cross colors, and it was deleted by the Google moderator team for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe okay. Let's just move past this. Okay, no moves here. Let's move on to Bengals at Washington. In 44 minutes, we're going to be joined by the Whale Capper to break down the last three games. Cincinnati Bengals at Washington, 61 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, 7 miles per hour. Washington opens up as 1-point favorites. They're 2s on the board now. They're also 1.5s. This total opened up at 46. There's also a 46.5. 61 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, 7 miles per hour in Washington. As I said, really nice weather in the Northeast. Not right now, but in a few days, it's going to get warmer. Bengals coming off being dismantled by the Steelers, 36-10. 0-13 on third down. Lost to black and yellow for the 11th straight time. Patched together offensive line, missing 2 starters. And I didn't move on the game, but I thought that bye week was going to help them get their offensive line together. That was a mistake. This secondary also beat up, was bad. Burrow goes 21-40, 213 yards, 1 touchdown. T. Higgins led receivers with 7 catches for 115 yards. What the hell's going on with A.J. Green? Targeted 5 0 catches?
A.J. Green he's a shell of what he once was. And he was my favorite receiver in the league for a few years, but injuries have really derailed that guy's career. I don't know if it's a what's up with A.J. Green. It's fairly obvious what's up with him. His body just isn't what it used to be.
I can when I think of AJ Green, I think of T.Y. Hilton. Are they both just done now?
I can't figure out T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton is not dealing with the laundry list of injuries that AJ Green is. AJ Green has an excuse. T.Y. Hilton's just disappeared. I mean, T.Y. Hilton's excuse is that he has Phillip Rivers throwing the ball, but yeah, I mean, A.J. Green, the guy's, what was it, 4 seasons in a row? He just couldn't be healthy. Different injury here, different injury there. I mean, I feel bad for A.J. Green, and I feel almost cheated as an NFL fan just because I loved watching that guy play. Healthy, that guy was incredible. And, yeah, he's just not healthy anymore.
Okay, well, let's keep rolling, but you're right. Yeah, AJ Green's broken. By the way, CMAC knows I'm on Akron, and they're 26-point dogs. They're tied right now. The big problem is that the whole world was on the over, so I took the under. It wasn't Noli No's best bet, but that may take all the glory away from me being on Akron. Okay, let's keep rolling here. Samaje Perine led the ground attack with 7 carries for 48 yards. As a team, they rushed 21 times for 139 yards. Despite the return of Sam Hubbard, they couldn't get any pressure on Roethlisberger. And, Geno Atkins is hurt, and Carlos Dunlap obviously is a mess. So I don't hate – say what, Bebsy?
Carlos Dunlap is gone.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But obviously he's a mess because he couldn't pass the physical when he got signed. Oh, no, did he pass the physical? Sorry.
Yeah, he passed the physical
with Seattle.
It was Tack McKinley that didn't pass the
physical. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Cornerback Mackenzie Alexander was lost to a concussion. They need him. LaShawn Sims, they're missing LaShawn Sims. Is that how weak their secondary is? LaShawn Sims remains questionable. Offensive tackle Bobby Hart Atkins remain questionable. Washington coming off a 30-27 loss to Detroit. This Bengals-Washington game is going to be a lot of fun to watch. And I know it's crazy saying that, but I'm looking forward to seeing.
Crazy. It just sounds like saying those words sound crazy, but I'm completely with you on this.
Right, because I'd like to see Burrow bounce back. And we all saw what Alex Smith did last week in the second half. And even in the first half, he was unlucky. First start in 2 years, he goes 38 for 55 for 390 yards. That's not really the Alex Smith I remember, Bebsy. And one of the things I said on the show was that I only want the first half. This one on the Sunday show, I only want the first half under because if he's down in the second half, he's going to start airing it out. And it's something he didn't do before he had to sit with his leg up in the air for a year and question everything in life. They drove into the Lions' territory 4 times in the first half: field goal, punt, missed field goal, and McLaren's fumble. In the second half, they produced long drives, really impressive long drives against the weak Lions defense, yes. McLaren led receivers, 7 catches for 95 yards. Gibson led the ground attack with 13 carries for 45 yards, 2 TDs. Wide receiver Dontrell Inman, hamstring injury. Offensive tackle John Christian, knee. Were both inactive. They're both inactive, and they're both listed as questionable. Linebacker Jared Norris is questionable. And then their safety, DeShazer Everett, ankle injury. Offensive tackle Cornelius Lucas, ankle injury. They were both hurt during the game, and they're questionable to go this week. Bebsy, Bengals, Washington 1-point favorites, and I don't know what to do with this game. I don't know what to do with this game. I'm interested in both these teams, and I don't know what to do with it. You have a plan?
I do, and this has to do with I've been texting you this for the last couple of weeks, and it's been frustrating me. But I have not been trusting my gut in the last 2 weeks, and this week my gut says the almost lock comeback player of the year, Alex Smith, gets his first win back this year. Look, I like the way he's playing. I like their defensive line, which I've been quite vocal about all this year. I like Washington in this spot. Joe Burrow has taken a lot of hits this year. Even coming off the bye, he's starting to look a little bit like a guy who's had the shit knocked out of him for half an NFL season. There is a rookie wall. That's a real thing. And when you're a quarterback that gets picked number 1 overall and you get hammered for the first half of the season, it starts to catch up with you. His receivers aren't balling out the way they should. Their running game is abysmal. A week off did not get that offensive line in order. Their defense is a mess. To me, this is Alex Smith time. Alex Smith, yes, Mark Uncaffer. Team is playing hard for Alex Smith right now. They are behind that man. They have not been behind their other quarterbacks. There's a connection with Alex Smith and Terry McLaurin. My gut says Washington, and I am on the Washington football team right now.
Are you going to make a move?
Yes.
On the Washington.
Yes, Jimmy. Yes.
Okay. Now, does this have anything to do with you having the Bengals last week and watching them fall apart?
No. I'm not like that. I am not. Okay. This is not a recency bias situation. This is me. I thought the Bengals would play tougher against a divisional opponent. I'm upset that they didn't. But look, what I've been seeing trending for that team did happen against the Steelers. And look, they came at Joe Burrow with pressure, and Washington's going to do the exact same thing. We know Washington can dial up pressure. We know that Chase Young is going to be looking at his old Ohio teammate and coming after him.
We have guys in the chat on opposite spots. Kai Tate, says Burrow can make things happen even with a crappy line. It's funny you mentioned this. You're making a move, and my palms just started leaking. Dennis Garcia says, take Alex Smith completions over. That might be a brilliant look, Dennis. I'm going to pop that. I've got your numbers here on the screen. I'm just going to pop this into my notes here that Dennis Garcia, Alex Smith is he's living like it's the last day on earth, and I love it. I love it. I love the way he's throwing the ball. I mean, imagine if he had done this years ago.
Well, he was doing it the last time he was a starter with the Chiefs. He had a great season with the Chiefs before Mahomes came in.
Great season, but this guy was throwing the ball all over the field. Like, even in the great season with the Chiefs, he was still very conservative and check down.
I don't know about that. I think you should go back and watch some of them games, Jimmy.
Your voice got pretty high there, Pepsi.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be nice here, man. You got to go back and watch some of those games. Alex Smith put it up that year.
Okay. I can give you a -1.5, a -109 from Bet America.
Yeah. Give me that.
Washington -1.5 and -109 at Bet America. And I find this an extremely exciting bet that I want to take some time with and think about. I'm not going to make any move here, but I'm very excited about your look. What do you think of this total? Open at 46 now, 46.5.
To me, again, this total, I'm going to watch it. I think over here. I do think both of these teams end up putting the ball up in this one, but I mean it's pretty tough to bet an over right now with how the Bengals played last week. So I'm going to stick off that for now.
All right. Very interesting breakdown. Bengals, Washington, and we move on. And also noted Dennis Garcia, take Alex Smith completions over. We move on to the Titans-Ravens. It's going to be a fun breakdown. 64 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, 7 miles per hour. Titans 6-3, 2-1 on the road. Ravens 6-3, 2-2 at home. Ravens open up as 6.5-point favorites. It's gone down to 6 at a few books. And this is Bet365 licensed openers, licensed in American openers. Tennessee, the total opens up at 47. It's shot up to 49. Titans are on extended rest and preparations after their disappointing 34-17 loss at home to the Colts on Thursday night. It was the Titans' third loss in 4 games. Colts outgained them 430-294. Tannehill was just 15-27 for 147 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Corey Davis caught 5 passes for 67 yards a day after the death of his older brother Titus from a rare form of kidney cancer. Derrick Henry rushed 19 times for 103 yards. And also love to the Davis family. I know from reading about them that Titus was this leader that Corey looked up to, and unimaginable how tough that would be for that family. And so love to the Davis family. The Titans went with a third different punter in 3 games. They promoted Trevor Daniel after signing him to the practice squad last week of FedEx. He was wearing his FedEx outfit when they signed him. And that's a great story until his first punt goes 17 yards and you lose the game. Titans gave Daniel no help on his second punt. It was blocked, but he was shaking like a – oh, man. All right. Gostkowski then missed a 44-yard field goal. I mean, I don't mean to be harsh, but Trevor Daniel and Gostkowski should not be welcomed back in the facility. Gostkowski's missed, 10 field goals this year? 10 kicks?
Well, yeah, he's missed some extra points as well. He's been atrocious.
At least Gostkowski's a professional. You get some guy popping out of a FedEx truck. What do you think? He's going to start punting and then 65? Come on. I mean, let's not.
I can boot a ball pretty good. And I can tackle better than I think a lot of the punter. I think I should get a shot at punting.
Well, it's up for grabs right now in Tennessee. Do you have the helmet with the bar? That's a must.
Oh, I'm playing single bar.
Laryl Murchison, the defensive lineman, hurt his back, listed as questionable. Tight end McCole Pruitt, wide receiver Adam Humphries, cornerback Adoree Jackson, all listed as questionable. It's not the Titans that I find so interesting about this game. It's the Ravens. 10-game road winning streak snapped, 23-17 loss at New England, driving rain, high winds. Lamar Jackson, 24-34, 249 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Mark Ingram comes back from injury. He looks terrible. 5 rushes, 5 yards. He also came in that Wildcat, and I don't know what happened. Crisco oil all over his hands. I don't know what he's been doing. Gus led the ground attack, running 11 times for 55 yards. Willie Snead led the receivers, 5 catches for 64 yards and 2 TDs. But the Ravens defense is dealing with injuries, and this is what makes it so interesting. The Patriots offensive line completely dominated them. But they didn't at first. We knew that Calais Campbell was out, and I didn't realize what a hole it made until Brandon Williams left. And now, all of a sudden, this vaunted Ravens defense, this very scary Ravens defense, looked terrible.
Well, those guys are 2 huge men. They're space eaters. Like that is a really difficult tandem to lose.
Well, they lost them, and it looks bad, man. Ravens entered the game ranked 8th in the NFL, allowing 102 yards per game on the ground. And watching that game, like, there's games where you're losing your bet. And you're like, man, I have a chance here. I knew I had no chance.
Yeah, it was painful to watch. That's for sure.
They gave up 173 yards rushing to the Patriots, 121 to Damian Harris. LJ Fort is out too, so Calais Campbell out, LJ Fort out, Jimmy Smith sat out with the ankle injury. They're all listed as questionable. Brandon Williams, an ankle injury. It's not that bad, but he could miss this week's game. They lost Nick Boyle, who his status is unclear this week, but he's such a great blocker. I mean, he sets so much up for him, their tight end. How do we not back the Titans here? How do we not hammer the Derrick Henry prop as soon as it comes out?
I mean, yeah, you read my mind, man. I don't know how, with those key players out in the interior of that line, how do they slow down Derrick Henry? And the other thing too is, I feel like this is worth noting, but last year's playoffs was that not the Titans giving the blueprint to the NFL on how you slow down Lamar Jackson? And we've seen him get brought back down to earth this year. We've seen them force him to throw the ball more, which you knew coming out of college that was his weak point. Yes, he's done better than people thought as far as the passing game goes, but he's still not an overly accurate passer. And when the run game isn't working for him, then yeah, that's problematic. So given the fact that there's so many points here, and without Calais Campbell, with that defensive line just really being banged up, how does Henry not take massive advantage of this?
Well, also, cash action like in the under, we just saw this Ravens running game look inept in conditions when they had to step up. Inept is harsh, but how is this over not in play?
I also can't understand, before we jump on this over, I can't understand why Dobbins got so few touches. It really seemed like he was starting to blossom, and he was looking at breakout time, and he barely touched the ball in that game. Why is Gus Edwards your leading rusher when you have J.K. Dobbins? And why are you running a wildcat formation when Lamar Jackson's your quarterback? It was just a lot of questionable decisions in that game.
Yeah. I'm going to have to make moves here. But Kev, you told me that there would be points scored. A lot of guys on the team total over with Kent State. I did make a mistake, obviously, taking the under, but I'm on Akron. Akron was the move on our show yesterday. And it went from 24 to 27. I showed no fear. The mistake was taking the under, and I was told not to by a few different people. And I probably should have listened. So, Bebsy, Titans over Derrick Henry prop. Am I simplifying this too much?
Well, I mean, it depends what that Derrick Henry prop comes out as, but I mean, he's 1-2 for the rushing lead. He was passed by Dalvin Cook last week or the week before. And I do believe that that's on his mind. I really think they go back to the well a little bit and just feed Henry in this game. That's their clearest path to victory.
And
So, yeah.
Cash action on the under, he's a spectacular capper, and it makes me nervous. But the reason why I think that the over's got to be in play is because the Ravens aren't able to move the ball on the ground. The Titans are going to be able to run it down their throat. So Lamar's going to have to produce some big plays because Ingram looked bad. Gus Edwards isn't running for much. So we're going to have to see Hollywood Brown make a big, but we're going to have to see something. Is that fair?
Yeah, well, I would imagine. Unfortunately, we haven't seen Lamar Jackson be able to pick apart any defense. I don't know. Are we expecting Corey Davis to play, with that emotional chip on his shoulder? I mean, I expect A.J. Brown to be great all the time. I was banging the table for the Niners to draft A.J. Brown. I'm happy with Deebo Samuel. He's great, but A.J. Brown is, I think, phenomenal. So I just believe that Tennessee can move this ball.
Okay. Well, we're dealing with the Ravens as a big favorite here.
Well, and that's just it. Is I don't know if I'd be taking them straight up, but it's a lot of points to give the Ravens here, especially given their injuries. And yeah, look, the Tennessee rushing attack has not been the same since Taylor Lewan, and that can't be understated. He's been pivotal for this line, but yeah.
I'm going to move on the Titans and the over, and obviously the over will only hit. It's predicated on the idea that Lamar Jackson could step up. So I hope that happens, and I'm trying hard not to focus on our Maction here, but C-Mac, Connor Mack, who's in our chat right now, he gave out Buffalo as the best bet. I followed him on it. I'm also on Akron. Unfortunately, I took the under. Okay, let's move on to the 4:05 spots. We're about 20 minutes away from Whale Capper joining us. We talked Dolphins, Broncos.
Are you not betting that?
Yes, I'm going to be on the Titans, and I'm going to be on the over, and I'm going to take the Derrick Henry prop once it comes out.
I think I'm going to hop on the Titans too because I just see this being bet down through the week.
And the only nervousness I have about it is that it hasn't been bet down yet.
It's been bet down a half point already, it looks like.
Yeah. 6.5. You're getting 6.5. And the best line I can give you is -109 at Bet America.
Okay.
Bebsy plus 6.5. -109. Bet America. Now, if we get to game time and it turns out that Brandon Williams is good to go, I'll be a little more nervous. But even so, even with Brandon Williams, when he was good to go, Calais Campbell's – I messaged you, Bebsy. I was like, look at the hole that Calais Campbell left. I didn't think it would be so big. 4:05 p.m. Eastern, Miami Dolphins, Denver Broncos, 38 Fahrenheit, sunny, 8 miles per hour. Before we move into this breakdown, Bebsy, is the 38 Fahrenheit going to affect – how much do you think it's going to affect these Miami Dolphins on Sunday?
It might. I don't know how well Tua is going to play in that weather. I think he's my biggest question mark, and the only reason why I wouldn't be bullish on Miami right now is because of them going into Mile High, playing cold. That's a real tough spot, and otherwise I would be on this game. I would be on Miami. I think we're nearing the point in the season where we're going to start fading Miami. I don't know if it's this week. I wanted to play them, but this cold weather, Tua, I'm not ready to back them just yet.
Dolphins come off their 5th straight win. I was on them. We were both on the over. It was the only little bit of glory I was able to finagle off of this past weekend. This is their best 9-game record since 2001. Brian Flores is going to put all the Belichick assistants can't coach to rest because Flores is a beast. Everything he's done, and I don't want to get too bullish on what he's done, but he let go Minka. There was all these spots that all these really strong decisions that he made that we all questioned.
He got rid of Minka. He got rid of Laramie Tunsil. It was a yard sale, and sure, I had a lot of questions as well. But the man he's certainly inspired those players, and they are backing him and they are playing for him, which is why it's tough to fade Miami in any spot.
He's done a spectacular job, a truly spectacular job, and so fast too. I mean, so fast. Best 9-game record since 2001. They're up 17-7 at halftime. They have an NFL best first half point differential, plus 74. For those of you interested in backing the fish early. Tua Tagovailoa, 15-25, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He has yet to throw an interception in the NFL. Salvon Ahmed makes his first career start, runs for 85 yards, 21 carries, 1 touchdown. Their defense kept Herbert off guard, uncomfortable all game long. They only sacked him twice, but he was throwing the ball too early. He was uncomfortable the whole time. He threw 1 costly interception, but he was uncomfortable. Total the season low, 187 yards. They allowed 3 catches by Keenan Allen, 2 by Mike Williams. Chargers, 273 yards were a season low. Emmanuel Ogba, a full sack for the 6th game in a row. Jason Sanders makes field goals of 50, 35, and 49. He missed 1 from 47. That stopped his 22 straight. Jakeem Grant, the NFL leader in punt return yards. I mean, we're talking about a complete team now. Brady still is questionable. Defensive tackle Christian Wilkins, 4 assistant coaches still in COVID protocols. This is the real deal, Dolphins. Take it away, Bebsy.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Dolphins are looking better and better each week in all phases of the game. And yeah, they're playing for their coach. They're inspired. They're going after that division. I like it. I might circle back around to this game on Sunday and jump on Miami. It's something I want to look at a little bit more, but I'm just not quite ready. I'm not quite ready to jump on Tua. He played bad week 1. He looked great week 2. I want to believe in him. I like the kid. I really, really do. He flashes brilliance sometimes. I want to see how he goes in and reacts in this game. And again, I still think at -3, it's still very doable for Miami because they just are overall a much better team, I think, than the Broncos. But again, it's going into Mile High. It's playing at that altitude, playing in that weather. So I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. I did that earlier in the year and then hopped on KC going in. KC rolled in there and kicked their ass. So something I want to look at more. And I think come Sunday, I'm probably going to be on Miami. But yeah, just sitting back on it for now.
Gerald Jones says Denver terrible in first halves.
They have been. They have been atrocious in first halves.
Dolphins are the best team in the league in first halves. We think the weather may affect them. Well, it won't affect them in the first 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Maybe that's the move. Let's talk about the Broncos a little more. Coming off an ugly 37-12 loss at the Raiders. Drew Lock, 23-47, 257 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions. Passer rating of 37.3. Was hit hard numerous occasions. He's now dealing with a muscle strain around his ribs. As I said, is questionable. Jerry Jeudy, 4 catches for 68 yards. Phillip Lindsay, the 2nd straight ugly game. running 4 times for 2 yards. Now has 12 carries in his last 2 games combined for 25 yards. Melvin Gordon ran 11 times for 46 yards. The defense giving up 4 rushing touchdowns and 203 yards on the ground. They recorded 0 sacks, 1 tackle for a loss. Cornerback Devontae Harris in concussion protocol. Linebacker Joe Jones and offensive tackle Jake Rogers are both listed as questionable. Gerald Jones says Locke can play in any weather. I think maybe this is just a very simple Miami first half.
Could be.
Why not? Miami first half. I may be simplifying things too much, but if the weather's going to affect them, it'll affect them as the game goes on. They're a team rolling right now. So Miami first half minus a half is minus 115.
Yeah, I'll jump on that.
Okay, well, I can offer you minus a half at minus 115 at Bet365. Let's move over to the odds page at odds.com and see if we can beat that spread first half. Yeah, we destroy that. Man, FanDuel's offering minus 2.5 and minus 120. Let me just pull up Bet365. Just ensure that that's what we're being offered. I don't want to say something that is false here. First half, Miami Dolphins off the board. Off the board. So I can give you minus 2.5 at minus 120, or you can wait. And I think we should wait.
Yeah, no, I'm waiting on that.
Okay. So Dolphins first half.
Yeah, I literally just looked and that was up on 365.
Both waiting. Okay. Flipper says it's minus 2.5 first half right now. Alvin Smith loving Miami first half. Okay, let's keep it rolling. And Jay, our guy JT, is all over Broncos as a dog. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all, Jay. But Miami early. Okay, so we have 2 games left. Perfect timing before Whale Capper joins us. So this is perfect. Joining us in 13 minutes. All right, let's go. Jets Chargers is next up. Jets Chargers. This is a very interesting game. Let me move back over to full game spreads and totals here. Jets Chargers. This total sitting at 47. Chargers open up as 10-point favorites at Bet365, although it was a plus 105. And then they move now to 8.5-point favorites, 8.5 or 9. Jets come in off their bye week. We last saw them lose their 9th straight game to start the year, 30-27 on the Monday nighter 8 days ago. Darnold has been ruled out. With his shoulder injury. So we get another look at Joe Flacco. Flacco had his best game in years, 18-25 for 262 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. And I don't know what to do with him. There'd be some guys who have a game like that out of nowhere, and I'd be like, oh, that's not going to happen again. But Flacco is a little different because he was there for an extended period of time, and he's got playmakers at wide receiver. And Perryman is so good. Like, I don't know what to do with him. Perryman, 5 passes he caught for 101 yards, 2 touchdowns. Frank Gore ran 12 times for 46 yards. LaMichael Pirine, 6 runs for 19 yards. They couldn't get a lot done on the ground. But the Jets had only 1 3-and-out all game in that 30-27 loss. Mekhi Becton, they thought that could be a pectoral injury he's done for the year. That's what Gase thought on the sidelines. Obviously, Gase does everything. Every thought he has is generally wrong. So, of course, Becton's good to go. Cornerback Brian Poole was also ruled out at halftime, injured knee. He's listed as questionable. Pat Alfine put on injured reserve, their guard. Quinnen Williams, we're still waiting to know what if he's going to play. Linebacker Blake Cashman, wide receiver Vincent Smith, place kicker Sam Ficken are all listed as questionable. Let's start with the Jets, Bebsy. Do they have a chance here against these Chargers?
A chance to cover? Sure. I don't think they have a chance to win. I still think as bad as this Chargers record has been, they haven't been atrocious. Their coaching has been bad, as we've mentioned many a time. But for me, it's like I talked to you about this before we started the show. The way I'm looking at this is I can't take the Jets, but it's too many points to take the Chargers. Now, I've seen money come pouring in on the Jets in this, so I want to see if this gets bet down a little further, and then I might jump on the Chargers. Flipper 13, I reluctantly teased down the Chargers. Yeah, I could get behind that because that's basically what I'm saying here is I'll take the Chargers if this line keeps going down a bit. But I can't jump on them. I think it opened at 10 or 10.5, and that's too many points, even with how bad this Jets team is. So, yeah, the Jets are going to lose this game. They're that bad. But the cover is certainly a possibility. And somebody in the chat mentioned this, and I think this is worth pointing out because it's something I'm going to be looking at later in the week, and that's the Herbert pass yards. I think that could be an easy hit come Sunday, so something worth looking at.
It is something worth looking at. Herbert pass yards. Let's talk about Herbert coming off his worst game of the year. Third straight loss for the Chargers, 29-21 at Miami. We just talked about the Dolphins. So Herbert was uncomfortable with the pass rush. He was throwing too early. He only got sacked twice, but one pick, and he was just not comfortable. He ended up 28-32 for a season low, 187 yards, 2 TDs, 1 interception. Keenan Allen was their leading receiver with just 3 catches for 39 yards. They put up a season low, 273 yards. They've been without Austin Eckler since week 4 after he suffered a hyperextended knee and hamstring injury, which forced him to be placed on injured reserve. He's supposed to return in week 11, but if you follow his social media, which I don't, but I do study these games, so I come across his social media exploits, and there's clips of him running and looking really good. So there's a thought that he may be back for this weekend. There's a lot of people talking about him being back. Kalen Ballage looked good. He ran 18 times for 68 yards. That wasn't great, but he did catch a few passes. I don't have the stats in front of me, but for about 35 or 40 yards. If Eckler's back, the odds will change immediately. Is there anything that you want to make official here, Bebsy?
No, not yet. Again, it's something I might circle back around to on Sunday. I want to see where this action goes. If it goes up, if Eckler and now they're playing, it goes up, I'm just going to stay off entirely. But, I mean, is this the battle of the 2 worst coaches in the NFL? Is that what we're looking at?
That's what we're looking at.
Gase versus Anthony Lynn. Neither of these men should be employed in the offseason. So, yeah, this is a battle of who coaches worse, I think. And I got to give Anthony Lynn the slight edge in the battle of the boneheads here. Maybe we can get that trending.
I like the Herbert pass yards prop. I think is a really interesting look, and I think he does step up. Ski says, "Do not take my team, Jimmy. Save your money." I'm not going to take the Chargers.
Early prediction: Jets get the number 1 overall pick and draft Trask.
Ooh, Trask for number 1 overall over Lawrence. I'm alive in my survivor pool. There's 8% of teams left because there's been no real major upsets since there was in the first week, but after that it's just been kind of simple, and it's between these 2 games. So I have the Chargers still available, and I have our next game, the Vikings, still available. So let's go into it. For me, there's no move because if the Chargers threw down, okay, Bosa is the big thing, right? I mean, I can't believe I didn't even have him in my notes. If Bosa's back, then the Chargers could throw down. Still, I probably don't take them. But
yeah, again, it's too many points to give a team that has not played well, and it's why I love seeing that money pouring in on the Jets, hoping that it might drop a little more. But we'll see. We'll see come Sunday if it's worth playing. Right now, it's one to watch. But if there is a bet in this game right now, I I agree with whoever said it in the chat. I can't remember now, but the I think the Herbert pass yards prop is very much in play.
And if I give you a free $500 bet right now on the total at 47, do you go over or under?
I don't know.
No, it's fine. I mean, if it's not as simple.
No, I mean, even with playing with somebody else's money, I guess I throw over and hope for them to be able to get something going. Like you said, there are weapons on the Jets, like Perryman, and I think Mims has some skill too. Like we waited a while to see him, and he's been pretty decent. So yeah, I free play. I guess sure the over, but with zero confidence.
If I had a free play at this point, I would take the under. Now I'd be praying that Bosa came back. But let's move on to our last game before we have the whale capper. Cowboys Vikings, 4:25 p.m. Eastern. Cowboys 2-7, 0-4 on the road at the Vikings now 4-5, 1-3 at home. Cowboys coming in off their bye week. Let's see what we are dealing with here. The Vikings open up at Bet365 at -8. I know it's higher at some offshores. It's down to 7 right now. You can get a +7.5 at plus money. The total opened up at 46.5. It's now at 48. These Cowboys were last seen playing the Steelers tough in a 24-19 loss at home. Dallas has lost all 4 games since Dak Prescott was lost for the season. In his first start in 6 years, first start in his career, he was drafted 6 years ago. Garrett Gilbert looked good. 21-38, 243 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I guess he looked good because the bar was very low. If you have high expectations on a movie, and it's generally shitty. And for this movie, I was expecting it to fall apart. And Gilbert looked pretty good. Now, the Red Rocket is back. Andy Dalton was unavailable because he was on the COVID list and the concussion. He's expected to be available this week. CeeDee Lamb, though, looked pretty good. Caught 4 passes from Garrett for 71 yards, 1 touchdown. Amari Cooper, 5 catches for 67 yards. So Zeke had the hamstring injury all week. We didn't know if he was going to go. He did run 18 times for just 51 yards. Tony Pollard ran 9 times for 57 yards. The big difference with these Cowboys was on defense. Van Der Esch and Sean Lee back patrolling the middle of the field. Cowboys looked pretty good. They held the Steelers to just 46 yards rushing. That was a big deal before we saw the Bengals hold the Steelers to 40 yards rushing again this week. Maybe the Steelers just have a real problem on the ground, and maybe Connor is just, I don't know. I
think the Steelers are dealing with a bit of midseason fatigue, and again, like any team that's at this stage of the season, they're still undefeated. That pressure starts to mount, and against weaker teams, it becomes more of a mental hurdle. So I think if anything, it's that Steelers team's kind of hitting a wall right now, but I expect them to surge late in the season.
Well, they're 9-0, but
no, but they're 9-0, but they have not been winning impressively in the last couple of weeks.
Until last week.
Yes.
Diggs is expected, their cornerback Diggs, to be sidelined 4 to 6 weeks. Fractured bone in his left foot. Tyler Biadazi sidelined at least 2 to 3 weeks with a hamstring injury, and then Joe Thomas is questionable. Vikings coming off their 3rd straight impressive victory, 19-13 in Chicago. Cousins broke his 9-game losing streak on Monday night, going 25-36, 292 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Justin Jefferson caught 8 passes for 135 yards, tied Randy Moss's club rookie record with his 4th 100-yard receiving game. Dalvin Cook ran 30 times for 96 yards. I mean, he's putting up Peterson-type numbers. You got Randy Moss and Adrian Peterson being recreated here with Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook. The defense did not allow an offensive touchdown for the first time in 20 games. 2 sacks, 6 tackles for losses. They were without tight end Irv Smith. He had a groin injury. He caught 2 touchdown passes in the last game. Cornerback Cameron Dantzler still in concussion protocol. They're both listed as questionable, as is defensive end Jordan Brailford. Cowboys, Vikings. So I have a question that's worth, a possibility of multiple thousands on whether I should use the Chargers or the Vikings in my survivor pool. But I also want to know how to make money on this game. 7-point favorites are the Vikings, and the total at 48. Take it away, Bevsy.
Well, to be honest with you, again, this is another game we brought up before we started the show, and I feel like the value in taking Dallas is gone. Uh, I would love to see this swing back the other way and get bet up now. I'd like to see money come pouring in on Minnesota so I can hop back in and take Dallas. I don't like taking Minnesota with what they have right now. I do think if there is a strength with Dallas, it's their ability with that healthy linebacking group, Sean Lee, Van Der Esch, Jalen Smith. That's healthy. That's a solid group. Cook has just been on fire lately, though. So for me, value's going and taking Dallas. I don't have a ton of trust in taking Minnesota, especially with Dallas starting to get a little healthier. I don't know how much. I mean, they looked so uninspired, and I don't know if it was just because Dak had just gotten injured and they were just bummed out. Like there goes your season right away. Is that why they didn't play well with Andy Dalton? Yes, I know the O-line was also smashed up, but is Andy Dalton just not an inspiring guy? Do they not like him? I don't know. So the way the Vikings are playing, the way Dallas is, the Vikings are going to win this game. It's just a question of how much.
Cook looked spectacular to me yesterday.
All he did, that's all he's done is look spectacular. He's looked phenomenal, and Justin Jefferson has done an excellent job filling the void lost by Stephon Diggs. Justin Jefferson looks
definitely
incredible, and they've got a new 1-2 punch there. So
there were so many times, though, Bebsy, when Cook was going to be taken for a 3 or 4 yard loss, and he somehow would gain a few yards off it. There were so many times where he was only going to be a 1 yard gain or a line of scrimmage spot, and he got 5 yards. I thought it was as impressive as a running back performance I've seen in a long time. Everybody knew he was the straw that stirs the drink. He was the motor, and he was unbelievably good. I agree that the under is the play, but I'd be more comfortable taking the Cowboys team total under. Personally, a lot of great cappers in our chat right now liking the under, and I agree the under is the play. But what if we have a final score of, or what if it's 35-10 and the Cowboys get that late touchdown? If that's the case, if I think that's the case, obviously I should take the Vikings. What do you think of this total at 48, Pepsi?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue that the under is very much in play here. A lot of these great cappers making that call. It's hard to go against them. But yeah, I understand your reasoning and why you would like the Dallas team total under, because again, I don't know how well this Dallas team is going to play under Andy Dalton. I'm
going to take the team total under 19.5.
Yeah. I'm going to sit back and watch that again. I might join you Sunday because that does seem very much in play. But
and I understand the under. You know what? Dallas's defense.
And what's wrong with is Zeke going to play? I mean, it's not like he's played well this year.
I think he'll be good to go off the bye week. I think it'll be good to go with that hamstring injury off the bye week. I agree. I think the under is available. I also want the Dallas Cowboys team total under. And right now that under in this game is moved to 48. It's gone up 1.5 point. Interesting. Very, very interesting. And AP Indy says Vikes and Survivors ballsy. Cowboys have legitimate weapons and should be tightened up after making McCarthy look like a bum. Interesting. From AP Indy. Slots 45 says, Jimmy, exact same dilemma as you with Survivor pick on Chargers only because Vikes play Jags week 13. All right. This is as long as I've gone in a Survivor pool that I can remember, and it's just this weird season where so many teams are still rolling. be no major upsets in the last few weeks. All right. We have 3 games left on the card, and we are bringing in the Whale Capper, whom we haven't seen in a few weeks. Whale Capper, what's happening, man? Great to see you. How are you?
Good. What is up with you guys? How's everybody doing?
We're doing poorly, man.
Yeah, it's been a rough couple of weeks for this show. We have been taking it on the chin.
Yeah. Good. I got great news for you guys.
What's that?
There's a lot of games left.
There is.
There's a couple of games left.
There is
a lot of games left.
There is a lot of games left, and a very exciting one to get on. We have 3 games left on the card, and they're all very exciting. Thank you for joining us, Whale Capper. We're going to start with Packers Colts.
Actually, before getting into this game, can I just ask you guys what, I know sometimes when you're on a little bit of a cold streak, you're a little tentative to fire. It's a little tough to, throwing darts. It's totally different mindset when you're seeing the board well and you're like, that's the right play. That's the right play. And then, but do you guys have any solid feel for anything standing out this week? Because sometimes those are the best ones. Like if it's screaming through you and your confidence is low, those are sometimes your best looks. So what was popping for the early stuff on Sunday?
Well, Eagles, Browns. I'm concerned that we're dealing with a bias after watching Browns, play a 16-6 game and a 10-7 game. But Bebsy and I both plan to be on the under 46. We've left the Falcons Saints game alone.
Oh, that's a good call. Who knows? Yeah.
Lions Panthers, we've left that alone. We've moved on the under, or I have moved on the under 48 in Patriots Texans.
Ooh, interesting.
And then Steelers Jaguars, we've left alone. I mean, Steelers, the way they play when they care about games is impressive, and when they don't care about games, I don't know what to do with it. Bebsy made a big move on the Washington Football Club.
I just I was saying to Jimmy, I've been going against my gut, or not going against it, but not listening to my gut the last couple of weeks. And when I've had those, I've talked about them on the show. I've said this is what I want to do. I chicken out, don't pull the trigger, and they've all hit. And so my gut this week is screaming Washington, and I want Alex Smith to get his first win back after injury, and it just feels good. It just feels right. So that's that, if anything, is more of a gut play than anything, but I'm happy with it.
Let's just start with those few spots before we go further, Whale. So that is let me go back here. That is the under in the Eagles Browns. What's your first feeling there?
I mean, that's been the most telltale betting angle all season so far. It's wind in Cleveland, bet the under. Something about the way that stadium is configured. If the wind is even remotely high, it's very, very tough for the passing offenses to do anything, the kicking games to do anything. So that one, if I had to guess, that number is going to keep going down. The weather doesn't look great. As the projections solidify and we see 15 to 20 mile an hour winds in Cleveland on Sunday, I wouldn't be surprised if that thing gets down into the 44 ballpark. So if you're going to play that under, I would fire away now. And I don't hate it. The Eagles defense got embarrassed against the Giants, couldn't get out the field. Giants offense is bottom of the league, not 32nd, but like 30th. And the Eagles defense let them, matriculate the ball with ease. It was embarrassing. I think you get a more honest effort out of this Eagles defense against the Browns. And similarly, the Browns are a team that likes to run anyway, so they're going to shorten the game. And the Eagles can't really afford to let Carson Wentz be himself. They got to limit his mistakes because that's killing them. So I can see a pretty conservative approach coming in here from both teams. So it sets up well from a situation standpoint, on top of the fact that you could have some awesome weather.
I moved on the Patriots Texans under 48, and the thought being Texans. It's simple, and maybe when you're losing, you don't know if simplifying things helps. But to me, watching that offensive line against the banged up Ravens defensive line, missing Calais Campbell and then that's the second injury to Trent Williams. I got to pull that up, but the second injury was then all of a sudden this line was dominating the whole game. We know that the Texans are the worst run defense in the NFL. So are the Patriots going to run the score up? I know without Stephon Gilmore, that might hurt them, and he may be back. But even without him, is Cobb, Fuller, these guys they're not. They don't seem nearly as dangerous as one DeAndre Hopkins, and so I'm looking at the under 48. What do you think?
Yeah, don't hate that at all. I think your points make sense. The Patriots defense isn't as bad as they're ranked right now. They're getting a bunch of guys back healthy. Lawrence guy, in fact, made a huge impact in that game against Baltimore and really helped solidify what they were doing from stopping the run. And their coverage is awesome. They've always been awesome. So it's a strong matchup for both defenses. I agree. And Cam Newton. I guess the one thing I fear about playing an under in the Houston Texans game is that you can gain chunks on them through the air. But Cam Newton's downfield passing right now is non-existent. He is not throwing an accurate ball farther than 15 yards down the field. So I don't think you realistically have to worry about him hitting some home runs, which would really threaten that total.
Well, Kappa, we're getting a little weird vibration from your audio, and we're also excited to hear you. I don't want to. Can we? Is there anything we can fool with to make you get it?
Let me try to switch my mic.
Yeah, could you do mine? Just because we've all been so excited about having you on. We want to eat up every last. Say what?
Is that any better?
That's much better. Yes, perfect.
Oh, sorry, man.
No worries. We're back. We're in business. Okay, so and it does look like you're in some sort of a crack den where usually you look like you're in these spectacular locations. So you're kind of ruining the. But it's okay.
Yeah. I didn't have the green screen up to put the yacht behind me, So yeah, it's a tough one today.
I'm just not used to seeing you indoors.
I know, it's so dark out. It got so dark so fast. It's awful. But yeah, weather's still nice.
Well, thank you for fixing the audio. It sounds great. Okay, the next spot, Bebsy's bullish on the Washington Football Club. What do you think?
Yeah, I no disagreement here. Alex Smith threw the ball an awful lot on Sunday. I didn't expect to see it, and he's managed it well. And that Detroit team played their hearts out, so credit to them for getting that win. But Cincinnati's in a dark place right now. Not great roster. In tons of injury status that impacts the game. They really only have one game breaker in T. Higgins, so I don't disagree with that one really at all. I think. I guess Washington, I don't love Ron Rivera as a coach. He's done some things this season that has cost them wins. I really think they could be in the they realistically should have beat the Giants one or both of those games. And then they could be sitting at 4-5 right now and, kind of in control of their own destiny in the NFC East. So shame that they're 2-7. Shame that they haven't really realized a lot of the talent that they have in their defensive front seven, especially. Really want to see Chase Young just explode and pick up like 3-4 sacks in this game. That would be huge. So I'm pulling for you. I like that Washington look. I'm probably not going to play that game just because I can't be involved in a game where Alex Smith could it could all come to a crashing end at any moment. I don't even want to watch. So, but I support your look on that.
We move on to a spot that it looks at this point where I'm so bullish on. We both jumped on the Titans. I'm going to add the over and the Derrick Henry prop because I saw that defense that I believed in look terrible. Calais Campbell out. Brandon Williams went out. LJ Port's been out. Jimmy Smith was out. Even if Jimmy Smith comes back, we know it's going to be the Derrick Henry show. So Titans plus 6.5, the over, and Derrick Henry props. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll agree with all those. I'm on Titans with you. I like the over too. Titans team total over. a lot of the points you brought up are totally relevant. Injury status for the Ravens defense is a huge question mark, huge problem. I'm not sure why this number is as big as it is.
It's crazy.
I think it's going to get bet this week.
Definitely. Okay, big question, and I know we want to talk about these 3 games, but it's great having you kind of going over everything because we've been pounding this card out for 2 hours. 2 hours.
Good work.
Miami Dolphins first half, best team in the league. Broncos are flailing, and we have this issue with Tua at 38-degree weather. The Dolphins 38-degree weather. What are you doing with the Dolphins this week?
I played the under in this one. I feel like you're going to get a super conservative game plan out of Vic Fangio and the Broncos after what Drew Lock just did, throwing 4 picks. And there's also a possibility this could be the Brett Rippon show. I mean, we're not even exactly sure that Drew Lock is going to go in this one. I think either guy, Denver is probably preparing this week for a run-heavy approach. They're going to try to shorten the game. Tua on the road at altitude and cold weather, not a spot I love to see, try to run to the window and try to back the Dolphins. They're probably at the peak of their range in terms of how the market is perceiving them. So not a lot of value to bet the Dolphins, in my opinion. If you'd gotten an early -2.5, I wouldn't have said that was a bad play. But now at 3, I think the value is gone. So, but I do still think there's value on this under. I think this under is pretty solid. And, a lot of it comes down to how I expect Denver to come in from a game plan standpoint, which is, hey, we're not going to shoot ourselves in the foot. We're not going to lose this game via turnover. We're going to run a conservative offense, and that plays to the under.
Very, very interesting. Ski Profit backing your underlook. Extremely interesting. Okay, then we're interested in have to ask you about this spot. Jets Chargers. The only thing that we came in agreement with was Herbert pass yards. After getting tormented by Brian Flores' defense, what are you doing with this spot, knowing that Darnold ruled out and Flacco coming off that 262-yard game? What are you doing with that spot?
Well, that's probably the only thing I could say is a reasonable look. Although Herbert, I think he's overperformed a little bit this season. I don't think he's quite as good as the statistics he put up from, say, week 2 to week 6. But this is as soft as pass defense as he's going to get. The Jets season is over. It's a disaster. This is in LA, right? This is in LA. So Jets are coming off their bye. They're out in the West Coast. This is probably going to be a little bit of a vacation for them, I would guess. I doubt that the Jets are coming into this one especially highly motivated. This is probably your survivor pick for the week if you have the stomach to get involved with Anthony Lynn in a survivor pick, I guess.
For me, it's between the Chargers and the Vikings for the survivor pick, and that's next. You would think Chargers over the Vikings?
I think you got to go Chargers. I mean, the same reason that you like the over for the Herbert passing is the same reason that they're a solid play for the for Survivor, which is they have legit weapons in the passing game, and the Jets have an extremely poor pass defense and no pass rush. So this could get into a little bit of a shootout, but the Chargers have some ability to generate a pass rush. They're going to put a little bit of pressure on old Joe Flacco. Make some mistakes. And realistically, like I said, the Jets, if they're down 2 scores in this one, they're really going to get their butts in gear and really fight hard for a win here. No, this is their season's over.
Even without Bosa.
Yeah. I mean, the Chargers still have depth. They have some pieces. I would obviously Bosa matters, but I still think they're going to be able to generate pressure.
I started really liking this Dallas Cowboys team total under. You had just popped into the backstage and you're not comfortable with it?
It's pretty low. I have no interest in Andy Dalton as my quarterback at all. I thought Garrett Gilbert was probably a better call, realistically, for what this team is right now.
Sure,
he's kind of frisky. He can get better the more reps you get him in practice. I don't know why you're going back to Andy Dalton, who was just pure deer in the headlights behind this terrible offensive line. At least Gilbert had a little bit of get up and go in that Steelers game. So I don't love anything about what Dallas is doing right now. But at the same time, they have a ton of offensive weapons. Minnesota's pass defense is not great. We didn't see them get challenged on Monday Night Football against the Bears, but they still have some leaky back end stuff that I would worry a little bit about. That guy like CeeDee Lamb, guy like Amari Cooper, they could get loose, and put up surprise points on you here, if not garbage time points. So that's the only reason I would be a little concerned of that under.
So you don't like the under in the full game. You agree with the market movement towards the over. It opened, I bet 35 at 46.5. It's up to 48.
Yeah, actually, I'd make this one 49, so I do agree with that. I don't think I'm going to play this game, though.
Very interesting. Okay, there we go. Nice little recap. Bebsy, what do you think of a little recap there? Anything that you're more comfortable with or less comfortable with?
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds like we're saying a lot of the same things, so that's a good sign. Anytime you're saying the same shit the whale is, and you're in good company. So, yeah, certainly like the confidence. Understand that you're not ready to jump on Washington. Makes perfect sense. But yeah, like you had mentioned, that defensive front is ready to fire and ready to go after him. I really want to see Chase Young open up. And also, they're still in play for that division, whereas the Bengals season is over. And, Burrow, I said this earlier, the rookie wall is real, and that guy is pounding already this year. So I just don't know how much – I like Burrow. I think he's great. I think he's going to be great. It's just he doesn't have much help at all, and it's starting to show. He's struggling at this point.
I agree.
We have 3 games left on the card, 3 games that interest the whale capper enormously. Let's get to work. Packers at Colts, 7-2 Packers, 4-1 on the road at Indianapolis Colts, 6-3, 3-1 at home. The Colts open up as minus 2.5 point favorites at Bet365. It was juiced to minus 120. Now it's minus 110. We still see 2.5s across the board. The total opened up at 51.5. There are 51, so a slight move towards the under. Packers coming off a very underwhelming 24-20 victory at home over Jacksonville. Aaron Rodgers, 24-34, 325 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Valdez-Scantling caught 4 passes for 149 yards, including 78-yard TD. Devontae Adams, 8 catches for 66 yards. Aaron Jones, we talked about him as a possible bet on Sunday from a prop standpoint, and we got off of it by the end of the conversation, and good thing. But the idea was that the Packers were going to be up by 20 points and just running the ball, and then the thought was maybe Aaron Jones still recovering from injury. Maybe he's not going to – maybe LaFleur's not going to want to push him too hard, and he ran 13 times for 46 yards. Green Bay played without starting quarterbacks Jair Alexander, concussion and hand injury, and Kevin King, quadriceps injury. Both are listed questionable again this week. Safety Will Redmond and wide receiver Darius Shepard are both questionable. Tyler Ervin, their kick returner and backup running back, left with a rib injury. He's questionable. They did sign David Bakhtiari, to a giant contract, 4-year deal, $105.5 million, $30 million signing bonus. I know they drafted a quarterback in the first round in Love, but at least they're going to protect whoever's back there. Before we get into the Colts, let's talk about the Packers. Whale capper, Packers, Colts.
I'm a Packer guy this week. Looking for them on the money line. Probably my play of the week. I got a very decisive split here in terms of how Aaron Rodgers is playing indoors in clean weather, winds under 10 miles an hour. He has been spectacular this season. You get a little bit of wind up, 10, 12 miles an hour, 20, 30 miles an hour, and he loses a little bit of the confidence in his deep ball. He doesn't take the chances. He holds onto the ball a little bit longer. He's a little bit more susceptible to the pass rush. Now you take him indoors. I think he is going to be spectacular against this defense, which I still think is overrated. Xavier Rhodes has played very, very well this year, but Aaron Rodgers absolutely picked him apart last couple of seasons. He just embarrassed him in Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. They ran Xavier Rhodes out of Minnesota. Period. Like they had no answer for these guys. And honestly, the style of defense that the Colts play, where they play this deep zone, keep everything in front of you. You give that to Aaron Rodgers, he's going to pick you apart. I have a very tough time figuring out how the Indy defense is going to get off the field in this one. If the fully healthy offensive line there. The high motivation game. The Packers are underdogs in this spot. They don't have a lot of games left on their schedule where they're expected to be competing. So I think you get an A+ effort out of them. Great game plan from LaFleur here. You can really attack this defense if you do it right. And I think Aaron Rodgers is exactly that guy. And then you flip the script and you say, did we see a true performance from Phillip Rivers and the Colts against that Tennessee team? He had all the time in the world, under no pressure, realistically just could not ask for a better situation in terms of a defense to face if you're Phillip Rivers than the Tennessee Titans. And I think that's inflated people's perception of him. The Packers defense isn't to be trusted, but for the most part, I think this is a score and answer type of game. I don't think this is this sets up very similarly to, say, week 1 when the Packers just had their way with the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings obviously have a power run game with Dalvin Cook. They can they can embarrass this Packers defense, which is not to be trusted. That's fine. But I at least liked what I saw from the Packers in terms of generating a pass rush last week. That was a positive sign. We haven't seen much of that from them this season. So the fact that if you can get any pressure on Phillip Rivers, force him into a couple of turnovers, I think you're getting the sell high spot on the Colts anyway. This should be a pick 'em by my numbers. So I'll take the money line at plus 120 and be pretty happy in this spot.
Ooh, shit. Bebsy, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, I think a lot of the same as Wales saying here, specifically just the fact that the Green Bay Packers came off that ugly loss against the Vikings, and then they had an ugly win against the lowly Jacksonville Jaguars. I just feel like this is a spot where Green Bay shows up. Aaron Rodgers is due to absolutely carve somebody up. And look, the injuries on the defense to King and Alexander, I've said this before with Phillip Rivers, it's not a factor. It's not like he's picking corners apart regardless of who's there. So if this turns into a shootout, this is absolutely going in Green Bay's favor because Phillip Rivers just can't throw the ball anymore. So they rely on a run-first game with their defense playing well. But Aaron Rodgers indoors, he's finally got all his weapons back. This is just a good spot for Green Bay. They haven't been playing well. They should not be 2.5-point dogs in this game. And again, I got to agree. This is a sell high time against Indy, and yeah, the Packers to me seem like the value pick here.
Woo-hoo-hoo. Colts are on extra rest and preparation after their convincing 34-17 win at Tennessee on Thursday night. Rivers goes 29-39 for 308 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Pittman stepping up, 7 catches for 101 yards. Nyheim Hines, how do you not fall in love with this guy? 24th birthday, flips in the end zone. I need a Nyheim Hines jersey. 12 carries for 70 yards, 5 catches for 45 yards. TD in the ground and through the air. T.Y. Hilton returned to the lineup, 4 catches for 40 yards. I don't fully understand what's going on with him other than his grandma is angry. The no-huddle offense looked very good. The Colts came in with the NFL's best defense in terms of fewest yards allowed. Colts held the Tennessee offense to be averaging 384.6 yards to 294. Darius Leonard led the way again. The guy's just unbelievably good with 9 tackles. Kenny Moore left Thursday's game with a rib injury. Their cornerback still being evaluated. Jack Doyle went into concussion protocol and is still not being cleared. Your bullishness on the Packers is extremely interesting, and I love it. Whale Capper, this total, we had Leonard Welsh ask about the total, opened up at 51.5, and it's now moving towards 51. What do you think about it? You making a move?
I would look for the over here because I see the Packers playing from ahead. And I think they're going to be able to continue to score in this game, which I think puts and honestly, their defense plays really poor prevent defense. They don't close the door. Like, they do not slam the door behind them. They gave up 2 terrible late touchdowns to the Niners on Thursday Night Football. They gave up some late scores to Minnesota when they were cleaning up in week 1. A lot of examples this week where they've given up some soft scores late. And I would think that that plays to an over.
Bebsy, any final thoughts? Are you going to make a move on the Packers, and what do you think of the total?
Yeah, I want to take the Packers and the points here.
You want the points and not the money line?
Yeah.
Right.
The total I'm a little less bullish on, again, just because I wonder if Phillip Rivers can answer the bell. If he has to throw, I mean, even when he's connecting, it looks ugly. So I can't get on the over because of my lack of trust in Phillip Rivers right now. So for that, I'll stay off that. I get it. I appreciate why you would be on the over. If you gave me a free play, I'd probably take the over. I'm just not super confident in that. And certainly not as confident as I am as Green Bay with a bounce back week. Even coming off a win, it still feels like a bounce back spot for them.
I can offer you from FoxBet a +3, the only +3 around. It is at -118. Do you want that? I can give you a +2.5 at -110. Actually, sorry. I can give you a +2.5 at +100. Oh, you know why? It's because that 3's gone. That 3 just left.
Yeah,
That 3 just left. You can't have it.
that's fine. I wasn't terribly keen on it anyways.
Okay,
I don't think it's going to come into play.
The legend Loshak taught us that until you confirm a move, you have to be truthful to what the odds page delivers. It's +2.5 at +100. That's pretty nice for a +100. Is that what you want, or do you want to talk money line?
No. I'll take the points in this.
+2.5.
My only
getting it for a flat 100. That's fair.
Yeah, and also shout out to the legend Lodos Loshak. A treat to say his name. Okay, we move on. That was a fun breakdown. It just gets more fun because now we got Chiefs Raiders. Chiefs Raiders is up next. Woo-hoo-hoo. Chiefs open up at -7. There's 6.5s on the board. There's also some 7s. This total opened up at 55. And there's you know what? I know I made that a nice little intro to the game, but I stopped myself just because JT said Packers team total. And with everything that you guys are saying, you have to think that the Packers team total is a very appealing spot. And it's at 24.5. Well, it's juiced to the under.
That's pretty shocking. I mean, 24.5 is a tricky number. Obviously, you had what was Baltimore score when they handled Indy 2 weeks ago? Did they get 24? They landed right on 24. Yeah. I think they get it. I would make fair price 27. But I honestly I would almost say shop around or try to sell some points there because 25 is not a key number. Obviously, 26 is barely ever landed on. So if they get over 24.5, it's going to be 27. See if you can get a better price on 26.5, maybe.
Wow. And is it because you think you get a better price?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's not. I just see the likelihood of them landing on 25 or 26 is really low. I think this is I personally I have a long tail of them getting into the 30s and 40s in this one. So I think this is going to be a big game for them.
Wow. So you love the team total over then? not at that spot.
Yeah, I can get more down on the money line though, so that's where I'm going to go.
Bebsy, what do you think of that team total over?
Yeah, I understand the appeal here, and again, like I kind of have to back up what I'm saying here. That I like that team total over, but I also, for the same apprehension I have about this over in general, it's not enticing enough for me to jump on.
Okay, now I'll do the proper transition. That I should have just gone with it, but I was too excited about that. Okay, Chiefs Raiders Big Sunday nighter, 8:20 p.m. Eastern. Kansas City Chiefs 8-1, 4-0 away at the Las Vegas Raiders, 6-3, 2-2 at home. These Chiefs open up as 7-point favorites. That's moved to 6.5. At the 6.5, depending on where you shop, you can get a plus line or you can get a juiced line. Like, it's very important to line shop on this one. This total opened up at 55. It's now at 56.5 or 57. Chiefs coming off their bye week with Revenga. And I would have screamed that louder if my daughter wasn't sleeping very close. I would have screamed Revenga. Although I did learn that Revenga doesn't mean revenge. And
What?
yeah, Revenga doesn't. I thought Revenga meant revenge. It means something else. And those of you that are Pacino fans and love. Okay, let's keep going. Chiefs come in off their bye week with revenge in mind. Their only loss of the year was 40-32 at home against these Raiders. The Raiders team bus supposedly did a victory lap around the stadium. I guess with COVID, only Andy Reid was in the parking lot. I don't know what to say. Good thing a Chiefs player wasn't there with a gun in his mouth. Reid's excellent numbers off of buys are well known. High percentage victory rate, also unders after bye weeks. They were last seen in a 33-31 win at home over the Panthers, and it begged a ton of questions. It was the 23rd straight game. The Chiefs scored at least 23 points, breaking their own NFL record. Mahomes beat Dan Marino's Hall of Fame. Dan Marino's, who cares about his Ace Ventura's Dan Marino's mark for fewest games to 100 career touchdowns. Mahomes did it in 40. Marino did it in 44. Mahomes had another incredible game, 30-45 for 372 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Kelsey caught 10 passes for 159 yards. Tyreek Hill caught 9 passes for 113 yards, 2 touchdowns. Yet they only managed 36 yards on the ground from 11 carries. Panthers put up 435 yards on them. Right tackle Mitchell Schwartz, back injury. Sammy Watkins, hamstring, were inactive. Schwartz is expected back. Watkins is still questionable. Tucker Carlton left in the first half with a leg injury. It turned out to be a fracture. He's out. Right tackle Mike Remmers left early in second with a rib injury. He's listed as questionable. Cornerback Rashad Fenton sprained his ankle against the Panthers and is listed as questionable. I'll get into the Raiders later. Let's start with the Chiefs. Whale Capper, Sunday Nighter, Chiefs-Raiders. Take it away.
Couple of COVID question marks that matter, particularly on the offensive line here, that I'm keeping my eye on. But I don't think you can wait if you want the Chiefs. I think this is going 7 across the board relatively quickly here. And I think that's the right move. I think this should be 7, 7.5, not 6.5. I'm down on Kansas City at -6.5 because I do think this is going their direction. I agree with in general that they match up well in every phase of the game against the Raiders. The Raiders defense last week was a mirage. They got some pretty fluky turnovers, a pretty fluky penalty luck against that Denver team that kind of improved their overall defensive rating, which I think is nonsense. And, you know, Pat Mahomes and Kansas City in general coming off of this bye have to be looking at across the NFL right now and like, man, if we buckle down and play hard, you know, down the stretch here, we can get the 1 seed. We can repeat on our AFC title run here. And I think it starts with this game. And the flip side is true. If you give away a second game to the Raiders, all of a sudden there are some question marks if you're even going to win the AFC West, which is wild to even say it. But this is a pretty important game, pretty high leverage game. We've seen a much more sophisticated and plus EV game plan and game script out of Andy Reid when he's going up against an opponent that he feels like is a high leverage game. That gives me a little bit more confidence to back Kansas City in this spot, even though it's a pretty big number on the road. This is another indoor game, fast turf, fast team. I think Pat Mahomes puts on a show, and I think the Chiefs take care of business.
Revenga. That's what you're saying. Revenga.
Oh, yeah.
And I was shocked when we learned that wasn't it didn't mean revenge, because I used to scream it all the time after watching Scarface. Bebsy, what do you think of this spot here? What do you think of this not moving to 7.5 or 8? I mean, let's just quickly, Whale Capper, hasn't this sort of moved in the Raiders' direction?
Yeah, I think you saw some. I think it was concern over Mitchell Schwartz's COVID list, although it wasn't from a positive test as far as I could tell you. But then the exact Cleveland Farrell had his best game as a pro against Kansas City the first time, and he is on the COVID list. And as far as I can tell you, that is because of a positive test. So there's a couple of funky COVID situations to watch in this one. But in the weird happenstance that there's a cluster injury across the offensive line for Kansas City, I'm feeling not so great about this.
Bebsy, take it away, my man.
Honestly, my apprehension on this one comes solely because it feels like the Chiefs smash coming out of the bye, looking for some revenge. This is a game that, if you would have asked me at the start of the year if I thought this would be that important or as important as it is, I would have said no. And I liked the Raiders being better this year. I just really thought KC was just going to roll. I didn't see a lot of losses on their schedule, period. And my only apprehension is because I wonder why this line is only sitting in and around 7. I really think, in all likelihood, they should come out and kick the absolute shit out of the Raiders this week. But I just I don't know. I'm apprehensive for that reason. Does it not feel like Chiefs smash?
I guess what would be your power number for Kansas City right now? How many points over an average team on a neutral? 9, 10, even 8, something like that.
Yeah, 9.5.
9.5. How and what about the Raiders? They're a little better than average. 6-3. They've beaten some average teams. They're like +2, +3, maybe.
Well, the biggest problem is that the Raiders' offense I have a lot more trust in than I do have their defense.
Oh, without question. Yeah, their offense is bona fide top 5. Yeah.
Yeah, and against KC, like, you better have a damn good defense, and they don't really. Like you mentioned, Cleveland Farrell played well last game, but I mean he's largely been a bust in his NFL career.
Yeah,
I mean, coming out of Clemson, I loved him. I thought he was great, but it's starting to look like maybe the other guys on that line were propping him up a bit. Max Crosby's had a better NFL career, and he came out of the 4th round.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's for that reason. Like I really feel like the Chiefs should be able to light this up, but I'm sure Gruden's had this game scheduled on his calendar as well, and I think they're going to be able to answer and come back firing as well.
Yeah. I guess my larger point was I think anyone with like a math model or power numbers is probably looking at KC 9.5, maybe 10. Raiders 2 or 3. So your separation there is only 6-7 points. And if you give the Raiders any kind of home field advantage, and granted this is a night game in Vegas, and who knows if there'll be totally fair refereeing. Who knows? There could be some home field advantage at play here for the Raiders. So the fact that it's under 7 isn't crazy, and I think there's probably a lot of people out there with just strictly math-based models that were probably betting the number because they were like, look, these teams are closer than 7, and I don't think that that's how it will manifest. I think we'll see a very impressive win from Kansas City, and I think this is one of those where there'll be a pretty sizable split between people who have specific feelings about the Chiefs in this spot and them performing to the top of their level, whereas the Raiders maybe the middle of their level or the lower end of their level. So it's an interesting game, and it's going to be a pretty funny split in terms of who's on which side.
Carr has been very good this year, and it's not really shown with his statistics. I mean, he's throwing for under 200 yards in his last 3 games, all 3 very comfortable wins. He's not making mistakes. He's in complete control. He's leading by example on the sidelines, in the locker room, everything he's saying. he's a different quarterback than I remember him being.
Well, he's got
Coming off. Say what?
He's got some help. He's got a fabulous running back, which of course he had last year, but
and now two with Devontae Booker stepping up.
And he's also got, like, honestly, Ruggs opens up so much with his speed. You have to, if he's on the field, you have to respect his speed. So that just opens up so much for him.
He didn't look great in that Judy Ruggs face-off last week, but Carr only went 16-25 for 154 yards. But it was a dominant 37-12 win over the Broncos. The Raiders, with Booker and Jacobs rolling. I mean, Jacobs ran 21 times for 112 yards. Booker ran 16 times for 81 yards. The defense got 4 interceptions and a fumble recovery, 2 sacks, and 4 tackles for losses. Jalen Richard hurt his ribs on a special teams play. The MRI came back clean. I mean, he's just a special team player now, but he's a dangerous special teams guy. Offensive tackle Colton Miller and defensive tackle Maurice Hurst are listed as questionable to go this week. We have the whale capper on the Chiefs. And, well, did you get them at 6.5? Is that what you got them?
Yeah.
And what was the juice that accompanied it?
I got it a flat 6.5. I think that's still around town, right? Hasn't moved that much.
Flat.
A couple shops moved to 7.
Yeah, I mean, The
You
6.5
can
is juice now.
There's actually, weirdly, back in the day, you remember back in the day when we used to look at offshores, there's some
I don't
big
believe
fat
that one
numbers out there.
I don't believe that one at Penny. Is that what you're looking at?
Oh, you don't think that's right?
No, I would go on to Penny's site. I don't believe they'd be 20 cents off of everybody else.
Okay.
If anybody's got an account, if they do you think that they'd be 24 cents off of the rest? I think that's
No,
I
don't.
to see that. Yeah, I'd have to see that before I lock that in. There you go, Chiefs, Raiders. We have whale capper on the Chiefs minus 6.5. Bebsy, do you want to make a move on this?
I gotta look at this game some more. I'm not super confident in it.
No worries. Lots of time, Bebsy. And we need to bounce back. And that leads us into the Monday Nighter.
To close the loop, real quick, to close the loop, it's off the board at Penny. That's a stale number.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I mean, they wouldn't be 20 cents off. In fact, it's off the board at most major books, even though it's off the book. It's off the board at Bet365. And does that have to do with the COVID issues you were talking about?
Probably. Yeah. I mean, the Raiders put 3 guys on defense on the list, and the Chiefs have a couple of guys on offense, although the Chiefs one, to me, it sounded less likely that they were positive tests. So tough to say. A lot of speculation, which is probably why they went down.
I know we got to go into our final game, but how have you handled COVID, Whale Capper? Are you waiting much longer than general to make bets?
No, it's broken both ways for me so far this season. I've gotten screwed on a couple, and I've gotten gifted on a couple. So it hasn't really changed my process at all. I'll tell you where it's really helped out is college football. Man, if you don't have anyone that has any friends on campus that know who's in, who's out, that's like massively plus EV info. I've gotten a bunch of free winners in college on a little bit of COVID info. Probably shouldn't be talking about that, but yeah, it's in the NFL. It hasn't broken one way or the other for me. So I've just been doing my thing.
Let's move on to the Monday Nighter Rams Buccaneers. This is going to be a very fun one. Rams 6-3, 2-3 on the road at the Bucs, 7-3, 3-1 at home, 74 Fahrenheit, clear 7 miles per hour. Buccaneers open as 3.5-point favorites. That's pretty much what they are. You can get a very juiced 3 if you want them. Those are opening lines from Bet365. The license, we only talk about the licensed books here. The total opened up at 49. It's gone down to 47.5. The leading indicator offshore books have moved it to 47. Rams coming off a 23-16 win at home over the Seahawks. Rams defense held the league's highest scoring offense to 3 points after halftime. And after halftime is a important point. I mean, we talk about the Dolphins leading the league in first half, point differential. These Rams on the second half, oh shit, we lost the whale capper. He'll probably, hopefully, come back. The Rams defense after halftime has been unbelievable. Unbelievable. They've allowed 2 touchdowns this year in the second half, none since week 3. They've allowed 29 points in the second half all season long. Whale capper back in action here.
Sorry about that.
No worries, all good. We're talking about the dominance of the Rams' second half defense. Let's go to the Rams game against the highest scoring offense in the league. They sacked Wilson 6 times, 3 by Leonard Floyd. They had 3 takeaways in LA territory. They intercepted Wilson twice, and Floyd recovered a fumble. Darius Williams has had 2 interceptions. He looks so good across from Jalen Ramsey. Goff, 27-37 for 302 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Josh Reynolds was his number 1 target, catching 8 passes for 94 yards. They used all 3 of their running backs equally. So Akers, Brown, Henderson combined for 23 carries for 99 yards. And then that's all glorious. But they lose left tackle Andrew Whitworth to a knee injury in the first half. 15-year vet off the field on a cart. He played every snap this season. 99% of last season's snaps. He hasn't missed a game due to injury since 2013. He damaged the medial and posterior collateral ligaments in his knee. He avoided damage with his ACL, so he's not done for the year. 6 to 8 weeks. Could come back for potential playoff games. Taylor Rapp, safety, injured his knee in the first half, didn't return. He has a grade 2 sprain of his MCL. He's out at least 3 to 4 weeks. Their kicker, Kai Forbath, injured his ankle in the third quarter. All 3 were put on injured reserve. They're trying to figure out who's going to be kicking for them. And Brian Allen, their center, is questionable this week. Let's start with the Rams. They shut down a very potent Seahawks offense. Their defense looks very strong. I know you're in the LA area, Whale Capper. Let's start with the Rams. Monday Nighter, take it away.
All the credit in the world to them last week for taking it to the Seahawks. That was a very, very impressive win. I saw a couple of these comments and strong agree. Rams clearly the number 1 defense in the NFL right now. I don't think it's close. Aaron Donald clearly the best defensive player in the NFL right now, and I don't think it's close. That gives them a chance against the Bucs. I mean, if there's one thing that we learned from Sunday 2 Sundays ago, if you can pressure Brady up the middle, doesn't matter if he's 25, it's undefeated in the Super Bowl, or if he's 43 and in his 20th season. If you pressure him up the middle, he is squirrely. He's inaccurate. He doesn't go through his progressions. He's not accountable he's not nearly the same quarterback. So I think it entirely comes down to, is Ali Marpet available in this game? Is he 100%? And what can they do to stop Aaron Donald from getting that interior pressure? Because that's entirely where this one breaks down. If they can put 2 hats on Donald, if they can give Brady a clean pocket to operate, they're going to pick apart this defense in the middle, deep part of the field. As good as Jalen Ramsey is, as good as they've played, some of the supporting cast has played, this is a tough spot for LA. This is, I think, the 7th time that they've had to fly across the country and play on the East Coast this year. There's a lot of travel. That's a lot of wear and tear on this team. And realistically, the Andrew Whitworth injury matters a lot. Jared Goff under pressure is not the same quarterback. The Rams reshaped their entire offense this offseason so that it's a lot more short passing, a lot less frequent, deep, long developing routes, a lot more quick stuff, getting the ball out of his hands quickly. That's helped him kind of recover some of his stronger play. And that's the kind of stuff that the Tampa Bay pass defense defends well. Like, they take chances, they play aggressive, they try to disrupt the short stuff. They're vulnerable over the top, and so I don't think necessarily Goff's going to be able to find those deep passes, especially if he's under duress. And I think this sets up pretty well for Tampa Bay to finally put together a complete performance in primetime. Their 3 primetime games have been not great. They lost to the Bears, ugly game. They gave away an easy cover against the Giants and almost lost that game. And then they get embarrassed by the Saints in primetime. And I think you heard some quotes from Bruce Arians this week. They're doing some more late practices. They're going to try to tune their bodies so that they're playing a little bit better at night. If I'm taking a side in this one, I'm taking Tampa Bay, but I'm going to wait it out and see if I can't get a 3.
Interesting breakdown. And the Bucs are such a healthy group. It's just Ali Marpet that we're wondering about, and I've looked in to get more information on him. He's still questionable. Bebsy, take it away. What do you think of Whale Capper on these Bucs?
Well, I kind of have an opposing opinion on this one in that, look, last week I was so heavy on the Rams and didn't pull the trigger and mad at myself for it because it basically said exactly what happened was exactly what I was saying would happen. I mean, Goff plays well against shitty defenses, which we all know Seattle has exactly that. Now the Bucs have a much better defense, which I think will hamper Goff. And like Whale said, traveling across the country again, this is their last bad travel spot for them. I brought up the stat they traveled 20,000 miles in the first 8 weeks of the season, which is insane. The reason I'm not fully on the Rams in this one is because if you look at the rest of their schedule, this game is one of the spots that they can afford to lose because now they're in the driver's seat a little bit in that conference or in that division because they play the Niners again, they play Seattle again, and they play Arizona again. And if they win those games, that division is theirs. And they're at home a lot more in the second half of this season. So I just think this is a really tough spot for the Rams. But I do believe that they are a better football team. I think Aaron Donald is going to get up in Tom Brady's face. And then it's not just him. Like, they're getting pressure from other spots in that defense. And a lot of it has to do with you have to focus so much on Aaron Donald. And then the other reason is that injury to Whitworth is huge. It's massive. Not only is he a fantastic player, but he really is the leader of that offensive line. So if he was healthy and playing, I think I would be bullish on the Rams. I'm still leaning towards them to take this game. I just think they're a better football team, and they're really getting it together on both sides of the ball. But again, Goff against a difficult defense, he plays awful. So if they can't get the run game going and they can't, get some easy passes for Goff to get him rolling in this game, they're going to struggle. But free play, I'm taking the Rams all day.
Very interesting. Buccaneers bounced back from that very embarrassing 38-3 loss by smashing the Panthers in the mouth, 46-23. By the way, Whale, to show how bad I'm kind of running right now, I had the Buccaneers first quarter, first half, and team total over. So I went 1-2 in a 46-23 victory. Brady was 28 of 39.
No.
Brady was 28 of 39 for 341 yards, 3 TDs, 0 interceptions. Godwin, Evans, and Brown. And I was saying last week how these guys were going to step up. And it's interesting, Wales' ideology about this showcase opportunity for them once again, because the game against the Panthers was certainly not a showcase spot. There were only 5 games on that Sunday morning, but it wasn't a showcase spot. Godwin, 6-92, Evans, 6-77, Antonio Brown, 7-69. It's pretty easy to expect the 3 of them to start gelling. Gronk, 2 for 51. Ronald Jones runs 23 times for 192 yards, 98-yard TD run. After that fumble, the Ronald Jones fumble, where Arians, who's there's so many different angles I could go at, but when a player makes a mistake for Arians, generally he just pulls him off, and he acts like a drunken father. And this time he stuck with Ronald Jones and was rewarded. They scored on 9 straight possessions. They put up 544 yards of offense. They outgained the Panthers 322-35 in the second half, outscored them 29-6 in the second half, and they're a healthy squad. So very interesting to hear Whale Capper on the Bucs. Bebsy close to moving on the Rams. And this total has dropped from 49 to 47. Whale Capper, touch on the total for us. Do you agree with this market move towards the under?
I don't think this is an under game at all. I might be biased by last year's Bucs-Rams game. If you don't remember, there were 95 points scored in that one. And it's tough for me to say you go from Jameis Winston to Tom Brady and you add a couple of pieces in the passing game for the Bucs and you're going to somehow expect this to be a defensive battle here. But yeah, but the injuries clearly do lend this to be lower than average. So I think fair price is 50-51. I was surprised to see it go down. If I don't get Tampa Bay and the 3 here, I'm probably going to end up playing the over.
Bebsy, any thoughts on this over that's moved to 47?
Pretty hard to argue with that logic. It screams over. The only way, the only way I can see it not getting there is if the Rams' offensive line collapses without Whitworth, and then Goff struggles. That's the only way you're not hitting this over.
Yeah, you need 48 points from Tampa.
And hey, 2 weeks ago I had the over in that Tampa Saints game, and if you would have told me the Saints are going to put 38 and they won't get to 51, I'd call you a moron. But turns out
that's a great point. Yeah, that's
turns
a
out I
great
took
point.
that one on the chin.
Yeah,
great breakdown, you guys. Let's move on to best bets here. Best bets on the card. Bebsy, these are the moves that you've made as a quick review. As always, you've left the Thursday move off of your card. You are on the under 46 in Philadelphia, Cleveland. You're off Atlanta, New Orleans. You are off of Detroit, Carolina. I moved on the under 48 in New England, Houston. You stayed off of it. You're off Steelers, Jacksonville. You took Washington minus 1.5 at minus 109. You moved on the Titans plus 6.5. And nothing on the Dolphins, Broncos.
Still waiting for that first half to come in.
I'm interested in that first half as well. That's off the board right now. Nothing on that Cowboys, Vikes either. The Packers you took plus 2.5 at plus 100. Chiefs, Raiders, you are off at this point, and off of the Rams, Buccaneers at this point. Again, we'll be back in action on Sunday. Bebsy, best bet time, and then we'll move over to Whale Capper for best bet time. Best bet.
I mean, I gotta stick with my gut in the Washington pick here. I just got a good feeling about Washington this week. I like that defensive front to get after a tired, beat up Burrow. So I like that play a lot. There's a lot I'm not quite ready to pull a trigger on, but I've got question marks beside a lot of these games and a lot of these lines that I want to look at further as this week goes along. But right now we're gonna go with Washington.
Whale Capper, best bet.
I'm gonna do the Packers. Packers on the money line.
Packers money line. Whale Capper, it was such a treat to have you on. You have an incredible podcast, a deep dive podcast. Could you tell us a little bit about it and where we can find it?
Oh yeah, a lot of the similar kind of, just two guys that love football and love handicapping football and talk about it every week, a couple times a week, and wherever you get your podcasts, we're gonna go through every game, just like not unlike what you guys did. Talk about the injuries, talk about the situations that matter, talk about the market movement, and try to find some winners.
And are you still going off at halftime of these marquee matches?
Oh yeah, for sure. All the standalone games we do a halftime pod. And try to break down, find a good angle to bet in the second half. We were on an absolute heater until came up one field goal short of the second half over last night in very frustrating fashion.
So we can catch you Thursday night, Sunday nighter, and the Monday nighter at halftime.
Yeah, literally just go to Twitter on halftime, and if you follow me, you'll probably see the Periscope crushing away at the top, or track us down on YouTube.
Okay, I'm gonna pop the Whale Capper's name. Follow him on Twitter if you don't already. It's at Whale Score at Whale _ Capper. I'm gonna pop that. That's what happens after 3 hours into it.
Of course, man. Of course.
Whale _ Capper. There it is in the chat. Follow him and check out his show, Spectacular Capper. And what a treat it is to roll with you, Whale Capper. Thank you so much for joining us. Bebsy, we need a bounce back, baby. We need a bounce back. I want you to put a bow on this show after I give a shout out to the Cappers in the chat. We got nothing without you guys. Thank you so much for your support and your insights and your humor and just inspiring us to fight the good fight. Robert Cherry, Steel Curtain, TD, Slats 45, Cashman 19, Gerald Jones, Mike, Christian Larson, JT, Lily Gunn in the house, James Woodruff, Kevin Riley, Gamer Bod. I had one of those too. Intex 2016, Astute Chaos, The Real Jolly Roger. Thank you guys. Mr. Fun Monk, Dennis Garcia. Thank you guys so much for your support. Bebsy. We're 2 hours and 49 minutes and 50 seconds in. You want to put a bow on this bad boy?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a marathon. I got to get some rest. I am flying to Tennessee in the morning to try out for that punter spot. So
Excellent.
Let's get some rest and let's get paid this weekend, guys.
Yes, let's get paid in full. Thank you to Whale Capper for joining us. I need to bounce back.
That should have been my best bet of the week, is that you guys are going to bounce back. That's the best bet of the week in reality.
I just to ensure that I show up on Sunday. I love you guys. Thank you for watching. Get paid in full.
Good luck.